Michael Carter stood at the corner of Elm Street, gazing down the familiar stretch of pavement that had shaped his childhood. The warm glow of the setting sun bathed the neighborhood in golden hues, but the beauty of the evening was overshadowed by memories he couldn't shake. Growing up in a predominantly black neighborhood on the outskirts of a bustling city, he had seen both the best and worst of humanity. His heart raced as he recalled the day everything changed, the day he decided to become a police officer. At just 15 years old, Michael had witnessed an event that would haunt him forever. It was a typical Saturday afternoon. The streets were alive with children playing, the sound of laughter echoing off the brick buildings. He was playing basketball with his friends at the local court, the scent of hot dogs wafting from the nearby grill. That was until sirens pierced the air, an all-too-familiar sound that made the laughter die down. Curiosity piqued. Michael and his friends left their game to investigate. They gathered at the edge of the court, peering down the street where a group of officers had surrounded his friend Jamal. The scene escalated quickly. Jamal was pinned to the ground, handcuffed, and clearly distressed. "Stop! What are you doing?" Michael shouted, his heart pounding as he rushed forward, adrenaline propelling him. But before he could reach Jamal, an officer turned, glaring at Michael with a mixture of anger and authority. "Get back!" the officer barked, his voice sharp and commanding. Michael froze, fear coursing through him as he watched helplessly. Jamal hadn't done anything wrong. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. The chaos unfolded in mere moments, yet it felt like a lifetime. The situation intensified when Jamal, in a desperate attempt to explain, was met with a knee to his back, muffling his cries. "Jamal!" Michael shouted again, tears welling in his eyes. But no one listened. The incident left Michael reeling. He had grown up admiring police officers, seeing them as protectors of the community. Yet, in that moment, his perception shattered. How could those sworn to serve and protect turn on an innocent kid? That day marked the beginning of his determination to change the narrative. He wanted to wear that uniform, not just as a badge of authority, but as a symbol of justice. Fair and unbiased justice. As the months rolled by, Michael's resolve only strengthened. He immersed himself in his studies, knowing that education was the key to breaking the cycle of violence and misunderstanding. He spent countless hours at the library, reading everything he could about law enforcement, community policing, and the history of civil rights. Each page fueled his passion, deepening his commitment to his goal. However, as he entered his senior year, doubts began to creep in. The realities of his neighborhood weighed heavily on him. Many of his friends laughed off the idea of becoming a police officer, dismissing it as a dream for people who didn't know the score. They would argue late into the night about the injustices they faced daily and how the police were often the enemy. Michael would listen, torn between his aspirations and the reality of the world around him. "Why would you want to be one of them?" his friend Marcus asked one afternoon as they sat on the front steps of Michael's house. "You know they're just going to treat you like the rest of us. You'll just be another cog in the machine." Michael sighed, feeling the weight of his friend's words. "But what if I'm not? What if I can change things from the inside? What if I can make a difference?" Marcus shook his head, unimpressed. "You can't change a system that's been broken for decades. You'll just end up disillusioned." Despite the skepticism of those around him, Michael clung to his dream. He knew he would face resistance, but he also believed in the power of hope and determination. Each night he would lay awake, staring at the ceiling, envisioning himself in the crisp blue uniform, walking proudly down the streets of his neighborhood. One night, while browsing the internet for resources on becoming a police officer, Michael stumbled upon a forum dedicated to police recruits. It was a space where aspiring officers shared their stories, fears, and aspirations. As he read through the posts, he found himself captivated by the stories of those who had faced adversity, but emerged stronger. Inspired, he decided to share his own story. He wrote about the incident with Jamal, his dreams of becoming a police officer, and his desire to bring change to a broken system. To his surprise, he received a wave of encouragement. Messages flooded in from people who had faced similar struggles, all echoing the same sentiment. Don't give up. The forum became a lifeline for Michael. He connected with mentors who offered guidance and resources, and he learned about police academies and the application process. Each interaction stoked the flames of his ambition, reaffirming his belief that he could carve out a different path. As graduation approached, Michael faced another challenge: the conversation with his mother. She had always supported his dreams, but the thought of him joining the police force filled her with fear. "Michael, I just don't want you to get hurt," she said one evening as they sat at the kitchen table. "I've seen too many young black men end up in jail or worse because they were wearing a badge. It's dangerous, and the world isn't kind to people like you." "I know, Mom," Michael replied, his voice steady. "But I want to be part of the solution. I want to protect our community, not harm it. If I don't try, who will?" His mother sighed, the weight of her fears evident in her eyes. "I just worry for you, baby. You know the odds are stacked against you." "I know," he said softly. "But I have to try. I can't let fear dictate my future." With her reluctant blessing, Michael began the application process for the police academy. Each step was a test of his resolve, filled with paperwork, background checks, and interviews. He prepared tirelessly, studying not just the laws but also the social dynamics of policing. He wanted to be more than just a badge. He wanted to be a bridge between the police and the community. As he submitted his application, Michael felt a mix of exhilaration and anxiety. The waiting period was torturous. He spent his days at school, attending classes and working part-time at the local grocery store. But every night, he would return to the forum, seeking solace in the shared experiences of others. Finally, the day arrived when he received the acceptance letter from the academy. His heart raced as he tore open the envelope, his hands trembling with anticipation. The words jumped off the page. "Congratulations! You have been accepted into the police academy." Tears of joy filled his eyes as he jumped up, unable to contain his excitement. He ran to find his mother, who was in the living room lost in thought. "Mom, I got in!" he exclaimed, beaming with pride. She turned, her expression a mix of surprise and concern. "Are you serious?" "Michael, that's incredible, but nothing. This is my chance," he interrupted, his enthusiasm overpowering her reservations. "Just promise me you'll be careful," she whispered, her voice softening. "I promise," he said, wrapping his arms around her. As Michael embarked on this new chapter, he knew that the journey ahead would be fraught with challenges. But in that moment, standing in his living room with his mother, he felt a surge of hope. This was just the beginning, a stepping stone toward a future he believed in. With determination fueling his every step, Michael was ready to take on the world, one challenge at a time. The dream of becoming a police officer was no longer just a dream. It was a mission, a calling, and he was ready to answer it. Little did he know, the road ahead would test not only his resolve, but also his understanding of justice, equality, and what it truly meant to protect and serve. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, as Michael Carter prepared for the police academy. With each passing moment, his determination grew stronger, fueled by his dreams and the belief that he could be a force for good in a system often clouded by injustice. Michael had spent countless hours studying law enforcement procedures, community policing principles, and the history of racial relations in America. He was acutely aware that he would be one of the few black recruits in the academy, and he felt the weight of his community's expectations on his shoulders. He wanted to succeed not just for himself, but for those who had come before him, those who had fought against systemic oppression and discrimination. As he sat at his desk one evening, Michael reviewed the application requirements again. The form was lengthy, requiring personal information, educational background, and a detailed account of his motivations for joining the police force. He took a deep breath, his heart racing as he contemplated the significance of what he was about to write. "Why do you want to become a police officer?" The question loomed large in his mind, demanding an honest and thoughtful response. Michael's fingers hovered over the keyboard, and he began typing, pouring his heart into the answer. "I want to become a police officer to serve and protect my community. Growing up, I witnessed the impact of racial discrimination and the fear that many in my neighborhood felt toward law enforcement. I believe that by joining the police force, I can bridge the gap between the police and the community. ensuring that everyone feels safe and respected. My experiences have shaped my desire to fight for justice and be a voice for those who often go unheard. With a sense of resolve, Michael reviewed his answer, ensuring it conveyed not just his ambition, but also his deep-rooted desire to make a difference. He submitted the application, feeling a mixture of exhilaration and anxiety. Days turned into weeks, as Michael waited for a response from the academy. He filled his time with part-time work at the grocery store and attending classes, but the anticipation weighed heavily on him. Every time his phone buzzed, his heart raced, hopeful that it would be the call he had been waiting for. One afternoon, while stacking shelves at the grocery store, Michael's phone rang. He fumbled to answer it, his hands trembling. "Hello?" he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Is this Michael Carter?" a deep voice replied. "Yes, it is. Michael, this is Officer Johnson from the Academy. I'm pleased to inform you that you've been accepted. Welcome aboard." A rush of adrenaline surged through him, and he struggled to contain his excitement. "Thank you. Thank you so much. Your orientation is next week. Make sure to bring the required documents. We'll see you there." After hanging up, Michael stood in the aisle, overwhelmed with joy. He couldn't believe he had made it. He felt as though he was on top of the world, ready to take on anything. He rushed home to share the news with his mother, who he knew would be both thrilled and concerned. "Mom, I got accepted into the police academy," he exclaimed as he burst through the door. His mother looked up from her cooking, her face a mix of surprise and apprehension. "Oh, Michael, that's amazing. But are you sure this is what you want?" "I've never been more sure of anything in my life," he replied, determination gleaming in his eyes. "This is my chance to make a difference." She nodded, a smile breaking through her worry. "Just remember to be careful, okay?" The day of orientation arrived, and Michael stood outside the academy, his heart racing with a mix of excitement and nerves. The building loomed large, a symbol of authority and duty. He took a deep breath and entered, feeling the weight of the uniform he would soon wear. Inside, the atmosphere buzzed with energy. Recruits from various backgrounds chatted, some nervously, others confidently. Michael spotted a few familiar faces from the online forum he had joined, and he made his way over to introduce himself. "Hey, I'm Michael. I've been following your posts online," he said to a tall, athletic guy named Jake. "Nice to meet you, man. You ready for this?" Jake asked, his enthusiasm infectious. "As ready as I'll ever be," Michael replied, forcing a smile. The orientation began, and the academy's staff laid out the expectations and challenges ahead. The head instructor, a stern-looking woman named Captain Reynolds, spoke passionately about the importance of integrity, accountability, and community engagement. "We are here to serve the public," she said firmly. "Your role as police officers is not just to enforce the law, but to build trust within the community. Remember, respect is earned, not demanded." Michael nodded, feeling the weight of her words. He understood the challenges ahead, and he was determined to be the officer who would earn that respect. As the days turned into weeks, Michael found himself immersed in the rigorous training program. Each morning began with physical training, pushing recruits to their limits. Michael had always been athletic, but the intensity of the workouts was unlike anything he had experienced before. He felt the burn in his muscles but pressed on, determined to prove himself. After physical training, recruits attended classes on law enforcement procedures, community policing, and ethical decision-making. Michael soaked in every piece of information, eager to learn and apply it in the real world. He often engaged in discussions with his peers, sharing insights and experiences, which only fueled his passion. Despite the camaraderie, Michael soon encountered the harsh reality of the academy environment. Not everyone welcomed him with open arms. Some of his fellow recruits held biases and prejudices that became apparent in subtle ways. During one training exercise, a fellow recruit made a derogatory comment about Michael's background, laughing as if it were a joke. Michael felt the sting of the comment but refused to let it break his spirit. Instead, he channeled his anger into motivation, determined to show them that he belonged. He knew he had to work. The physical challenges continued to escalate as the training progressed. Recruits were required to complete obstacle courses, practice self-defense techniques, and engage in scenario-based training that tested their decision-making skills. Each day pushed Michael beyond his comfort zone, but he thrived on the adrenaline and the sense of purpose that accompanied each task. During one particularly grueling training session, the instructors set up a mock scenario involving a domestic disturbance. Michael was paired with Jake, and as they approached the scene, the tension was palpable. The two were tasked with de-escalating the situation, which involved role-playing angry individuals. "All right, remember, keep your cool and don't escalate the situation," their instructor reminded them. Michael took a deep breath, channeling his inner resolve. They entered the scenario and chaos erupted. Michael had to navigate the emotions of the victim while trying to maintain control over the aggressor. As the scene played out, he felt the weight of his training. The skills he had learned were crucial in a real-life situation, and he understood the responsibility that lay ahead. After the exercise, the instructor gathered the recruits for a debriefing. "Michael, you handled the situation well," he said, nodding in approval. "You showed empathy and control." "Thanks, sir," Michael replied, feeling a sense of pride swell within him. However, not all feedback was positive. A few recruits snickered at the mention of his name, their disdain evident. Michael pushed aside their negativity, focusing on his growth. As the weeks rolled on, the pressures of training began to take their toll on some recruits. One day, during a routine physical training session, an incident occurred that would shake the academy to its core. Recruits were running laps around the track when one of the trainees, a young man named Tom, suddenly collapsed. Michael watched in horror as the instructors rushed to Tom's side, performing CPR. The atmosphere shifted from competitive camaraderie to panic as everyone realized the gravity of the situation. Michael's heart raced as he observed the chaos unfolding. He had trained for emergencies, but nothing could prepare him for witnessing a fellow recruit in distress. After what felt like an eternity, the paramedics arrived and rushed Tom to the hospital, leaving a somber air among the recruits. That night, the academy held a meeting to address the incident. Captain Reynolds spoke gravely, emphasizing the importance of mental and physical health in law enforcement. "This is a reminder that our work is not just physically demanding but mentally challenging as well," she said. "Support one another. We're a team, and we must look out for each other." Michael felt the impact of her words. The incident had reminded him of the fragility of life and the importance of camaraderie. In that moment, he realized that his journey was not just about him. It was about building a supportive network among officers who could uplift one another during the tumultuous times. As Michael approached the halfway point of his training, he reflected on how far he had come. The physical challenges had pushed him beyond his limits, and the mental strain had tested his resolve. Yet, with every obstacle, he felt himself growing stronger and more determined. One evening, while studying for an upcoming exam, he received a message from Jake. "Hey man, want to grab dinner? I think we could use a break." Michael agreed, feeling grateful for the opportunity to connect outside the academy walls. They met at a nearby diner, and over burgers and fries, they discussed their experiences and aspirations. "I never thought I'd make it this far," Jake admitted, taking a bite. "There were moments I doubted myself." "I get that," Michael replied, "but we're here for a reason. We have to push through." As their conversation flowed, Michael felt a sense of camaraderie building between them. They shared stories about their backgrounds, their hopes for the future, and the struggles they faced in the academy. For the first time, Michael felt like he was forming genuine connections with his peers. "I respect you, man," Jake said, looking Michael in the eye. "You're a good guy, and I know you'll make a great officer." "Thanks, that means a lot," Michael replied, smiling. As they finished their meal, Michael left the diner feeling revitalized. He had found a friend in Jake, someone who understood the challenges they faced together. With newfound determination, he returned to the academy, ready to tackle the rest of his training head-on. As Michael and his fellow recruits moved through the remaining weeks of the academy, he felt a shift in the dynamics. Despite the challenges, they began to come together as a cohesive unit, supporting one another through the rigorous training. Instructors encouraged open dialogue about race and policing, allowing recruits to express their fears, experiences, and hopes for the future. Michael found himself becoming a voice for those who felt marginalized, sharing his perspective and advocating for understanding among his peers. One day, during a classroom discussion on community policing, Michael raised his hand. "I think it's important for us to recognize the historical context of policing in minority communities. We can't ignore the trust issues that exist." The room fell silent and some recruits exchanged glances. Captain Reynolds nodded, acknowledging his point. "That's a valid perspective, Michael. Understanding history is crucial for building trust in the community." Michael felt a surge of confidence as he spoke, realizing that he had a platform to advocate for change even before he became an officer. The conversation flowed, and more recruits began to share their thoughts, fostering a sense of understanding and collaboration. As graduation approached, the pressure mounted. The final evaluations would determine who would pass the academy and go on to become officers. Michael felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. He had worked hard, but the thought of failure loomed in the back of his mind. The day of the final evaluation arrived, and recruits gathered in the training room. Captain Reynolds explained the process, emphasizing the importance of demonstrating their skills and knowledge. "You've all worked hard to get here, but remember, this is not just about passing a test. It's about proving you can serve your community with integrity and respect," she said. Michael felt a fire ignite within him. He was ready to show everyone that he belonged. As the evaluations began, he tackled each scenario with focus and determination. He navigated through physical challenges, scenario-based training, and decision-making exercises, drawing on everything he had learned over the past few months. When it was finally his turn for the final scenario, he approached the mock scene with confidence. The instructor played the role of a distraught citizen, and Michael had to de-escalate the situation. He took a deep breath, recalling the training and conversations he had engaged in. "Sir, I'm here to help," he said calmly, maintaining eye contact. "Can you tell me what's bothering you?" As the scenario unfolded, Michael's ability to connect and empathize became evident. He navigated the situation skillfully, showing compassion and understanding. When the evaluation concluded, he felt a sense of accomplishment wash over him. The day of graduation arrived, and Michael stood in his dress uniform, a mix of pride and anxiety swirling within him. Family and friends filled the audience, their faces beaming with pride. As he marched across the stage to receive his certificate, he could feel his heart racing. "Congratulations, Officer Carter," Captain Reynolds said, extending her hand. "Thank you, ma'am," he replied, trying to contain his excitement. As the ceremony concluded, Michael scanned the crowd for his mother. When their eyes met, he saw tears of joy streaming down her face. He rushed over, wrapping his arms around her. "I did it, Mom. I really did it," he exclaimed. "I'm so proud of you, baby." "You've worked so hard," she replied, her voice trembling with emotion. With graduation behind him, Michael felt ready to face the challenges of the real world. He was now a police officer, prepared to make a difference in the community he loved. But little did he know, the journey ahead would test his resolve in ways he had never imagined. Michael Carter stood at the entrance of the police academy, the warm morning sun casting long shadows across the pavement. Today marked the beginning of a new chapter in his life, one that would challenge him in ways he had never imagined. As he adjusted his uniform, he felt the weight of his ambition and the expectations of those who believed in him. With a deep breath, he pushed through the door and stepped into the bustling environment of the academy. The first week at the academy was a whirlwind of introductions, orientation sessions, and rigorous training schedules. Recruits from various backgrounds gathered in classrooms filled with eager faces, each driven by their own reasons for joining the police force. Michael was surrounded by individuals who shared his passion for justice, and he quickly realized that their stories, though different, resonated with his own. Each day began with physical training. Recruits would gather outside for intense workouts that pushed them to their limits. Michael was no stranger to hard work, but the intensity of the training was unlike anything he had experienced before. As they sprinted, did push-ups, and engaged in obstacle courses, he felt a sense of camaraderie growing among the recruits. On the first day, they met their physical training instructor, Sergeant Collins, a no-nonsense former police officer with a reputation for being tough but fair. "You're here to become the best version of yourselves," he said, his voice commanding attention. "I expect dedication and hard work. If you can't handle it, you won't make it through." Michael felt a rush of adrenaline as he took in the challenge. He had come too far to turn back now. He pushed himself, determined to prove he belonged among his peers. The grueling workouts left him exhausted but exhilarated, and he reveled in the shared struggle, knowing they were all in it together. After physical training, recruits attended classroom sessions that covered a wide range of topics, from legal procedures and criminal justice theories to ethics in law enforcement. Michael was particularly intrigued by discussions on community policing and the importance of building trust with the neighborhoods they would serve. During one lecture, their instructor, Officer Ramirez, shared stories about his own experiences on the force. "Building relationships with the community is just as important as enforcing the law," he emphasized. "You are not just officers, you are ambassadors for justice. How you conduct yourselves reflects on the entire department." Michael took the message to heart. He knew that the perception of police officers in his community was often negative, and he was determined to change that narrative. His resolve deepened as he learned about the historical context of policing in minority neighborhoods, the challenges, and the systemic issues that needed to be addressed. However, not all recruits shared his enthusiasm. Michael noticed a divide within the group. Some recruits were there for the badge and power it represented, while others genuinely sought to make a difference. Tensions simmered beneath the surface, and Michael found himself navigating the complexities of relationships among his peers. As the weeks went by, Michael began to forge friendships with a few recruits who shared his values. Jake, his early companion from the diner, became a close ally. They bonded over their aspirations to become officers who would foster positive change. "Man, I feel like we're in this together," Jake said one afternoon as they sat outside during a break. "We need to stick together if we're going to make it through this." Michael nodded, appreciating the camaraderie. "I agree. We have to support each other, especially when things get tough." Another recruit, Sarah, joined their small group. She was a bright, determined woman who had grown up in a neighborhood not far from Michael's. Her experiences with law enforcement had shaped her desire to join the force, and she quickly became an integral part of their dynamic. "I can't believe how intense the training is," Sarah said, wiping sweat from her forehead after a particularly grueling day. "But I know it's all worth it." Michael smiled. "Absolutely. We're learning to handle real situations. It's not just about passing tests. It's about being prepared for what's out there." The trio began to study together, encouraging one another and sharing insights from their experiences. They became a source of strength for one another, motivating each other to excel academically and physically. Despite the growing friendships, Michael still faced challenges within the academy. Some recruits were openly dismissive of his ambitions, questioning his motivations, and perpetuating the stereotypes he sought to dismantle. During one training session, a fellow recruit named Tom made a derogatory remark as they prepared for a scenario-based exercise. "Let's see how long you last, Carter. Bet you'll be the first to quit," Tom sneered, earning a few chuckles from others. Michael felt his heart race with anger, but he refused to let the comment shake him. Instead, he channeled his frustration into focus. He knew that his actions on the field would speak louder than words, and he was determined to prove himself. As they moved into scenario-based training, Michael faced his first significant challenge. The recruits were split into pairs to simulate responding to a domestic disturbance. He was partnered with Jake, and as they approached the mock scene, Michael felt a rush of adrenaline. "Just remember what we learned," Jake whispered as they approached the victims. They entered the scene, where actors portrayed a chaotic argument. Michael quickly assessed the situation, recalling the principles of de-escalation. As he engaged with the actors, he focused on maintaining a calm demeanor and using his communication skills to diffuse the tension. "Sir, I understand you're upset," Michael said, his voice steady. "Let's talk about what's going on." As the scene unfolded, he felt a surge of confidence. He was handling the situation well, and Jake supported him seamlessly. When the exercise concluded, Officer Ramirez commended them for their teamwork and effective communication. "Well done, recruits. You demonstrated the importance of listening and engaging respectfully. That's what policing is all about. Michael beamed with pride, grateful for the validation. He knew he was on the right path, even in the face of adversity. As the weeks progressed, the training became more intense, pushing recruits to their limits. The academy introduced community engagement initiatives, which involved outreach programs aimed at building trust with local residents. Michael saw this as an opportunity to put into practice what he had learned about community policing. During one outreach event, recruits visited a local community center to meet residents and participate in activities. Michael felt a mix of excitement and nervousness as they arrived. This was his chance to connect with the community he hoped to serve. As they set up tables and booths, Michael struck up conversations with local residents. He listened to their concerns, shared his own experiences, and began to build relationships. One resident, an elderly woman named Mrs. Thompson, shared stories about her family's struggles with police interactions. "I just want my grandchildren to feel safe," she said, her voice tinged with worry. "Too many young people get caught up in the wrong situations." Michael nodded empathetically. "I understand, and that's why we're here. We want to change the way things are." By the end of the day, Michael felt fulfilled. The conversations he had with community members deepened his commitment to making a difference. He realized that being a police officer was not just about enforcing the law. It was about understanding the needs of the community and working collaboratively to address them. However, not all experiences during the outreach were positive. Michael encountered a group of young men who were skeptical of his intentions. They had heard negative stories about the police and were unwilling to engage. "Why should we trust you?" one young man challenged, crossing his arms defiantly. Michael took a deep breath, sensing the tension in the air. "I understand your concerns. I want to hear your stories, to understand your experiences. I'm here to listen, not to judge." The young men remained uninterested, and Michael felt a pang of disappointment. He realized that rebuilding trust would be a long and difficult journey, but he refused to give up. When he returned to the academy that evening, he shared his experience with Jake and Sarah. "It was disheartening to see how deep the mistrust runs," he admitted. Jake nodded. "But we can't let that discourage us. We have to keep trying. It's part of our job to break down those barriers." "Exactly," Sarah added. "Every conversation counts. It's not going to change overnight, but we can plant the seeds for a better future." With renewed determination, Michael vowed to approach community engagement with an open mind. He understood that building trust required patience and persistence. As the weeks dwindled down to the final stretch of training, the recruits faced a series of evaluations that would test their skills and knowledge. Michael felt the pressure mounting, knowing that their performance would determine their readiness to join the force. During one evaluation, the recruits had to demonstrate their knowledge of laws and protocols in a simulated traffic stop. Michael was paired with Sarah, and as they approached the mock vehicle, he felt a rush of adrenaline. "Stay calm and follow the procedure," he reminded himself. As they interacted with the driver, Michael employed the communication skills he had honed throughout the academy. He maintained a respectful demeanor, explaining the reason for the stop while ensuring that the driver felt heard. "Great job, recruits," the instructor said after the scenario concluded. "You handled that with professionalism." Michael felt a sense of pride wash over him, knowing he was growing more confident in his abilities. However, doubt still lingered in the back of his mind. He knew that the real world would be far more complex than any training simulation, and he needed to prepare for the challenges ahead. One afternoon, the recruits gathered for a special seminar on the importance of community relations. The guest speaker, a well-respected community activist named Marcus Allen, shared his insights on bridging the gap between law enforcement and the communities they serve. "Trust is earned through transparency and accountability," Marcus emphasized. "You have the power to shape the narrative and change perceptions, but it takes more than just wearing a badge. It takes heart and empathy." His words resonated deeply with Michael. He realized that the real work would begin after graduation, when they would have to face the challenges head-on. "We have a responsibility," Marcus continued. "You are not just officers. You are change-makers. Don't shy away from difficult conversations. Embrace them." The seminar ignited a fire within Michael, reminding him of why he had chosen this path. He felt more determined than ever to serve his community with integrity and respect. As graduation day approached, Michael reflected on the journey he had undertaken. The challenges, the friendships, and the lessons learned had shaped him into a better person. He knew that the road ahead would be filled with uncertainty, but he was ready to face it. During the final weeks of training, the recruits participated in scenario-based evaluations that simulated real-life situations they might encounter on the job. Michael excelled in these exercises, using the skills he had developed over the past few months. The day of graduation arrived, and Michael stood in his dress uniform, a mix of pride and anticipation coursing through him. Family and friends filled the audience, and as he looked out into the crowd, he felt the support of those who believed in him. As he received his certificate, Captain Reynolds placed her hand on his shoulder. "Congratulations, Officer Carter. You have the potential to make a real difference in your community. Remember, the badge you wear is not just a symbol of authority, it's a symbol of trust." Tears of joy filled his eyes as he embraced his mother, who had tears streaming down her face. "I'm so proud of you, baby. You did it." "I couldn't have done it without your support," he replied, gratitude swelling in his heart. As the ceremony concluded, Michael felt a sense of fulfillment. He was ready to embark on this new journey, prepared to face the challenges that lay ahead. Little did he know, the real test of his character and resolve was about to begin. Michael Carter stood at the entrance of the precinct, the sun peeking through the clouds as if trying to brighten the heavy atmosphere surrounding him. Today marked his first day on the job as a police officer, a dream he had pursued with unwavering determination. But along with the excitement came an undercurrent of anxiety. He was stepping into a world where he would not only have to prove himself, but also navigate the complexities of racial dynamics within the department. As he walked through the precinct doors, he felt the familiar rush of adrenaline. The walls were adorned with photos of officers from various eras, each representing a story of service and sacrifice. Michael took a moment to absorb the environment, feeling a mix of pride and apprehension. "Officer Carter!" a voice called out, breaking his reverie. It was Sergeant Collins, his physical training instructor from the academy. "Glad to see you made it through," Collins said, a smile breaking across his stern demeanor. "You're going to do great things here." "Thank you, Sergeant," Michael replied, grateful for the encouragement. "Let me introduce you to your partner," Collins said, leading him through the bustling precinct. Officers were moving about, engaged in conversations and paperwork, the hum of activity creating a vibrant atmosphere. Michael followed closely, trying to take in everything. As they reached the back of the precinct, Collins gestured toward a man sitting at a desk, engrossed in paperwork. "This is Officer Jake Henderson. He'll be your partner for the foreseeable future." Jake looked up, a friendly grin spreading across his face. "Hey man, welcome aboard." "Thanks, Jake. I'm excited to be here," Michael replied, feeling a bit of his tension ease. As they exchanged pleasantries, Michael felt a spark of camaraderie. Having someone familiar from the academy was a relief, and he hoped it would help him navigate the challenges ahead. After a brief orientation, Michael and Jake were assigned to patrol a neighborhood that had seen its fair share of crime and community tension. The streets were lined with houses that held stories of struggle, resilience, and hope. Michael felt a sense of responsibility wash over him. This was his chance to make a difference. As they drove through the neighborhood in their cruiser, Michael observed the community's dynamics. Children played on the sidewalks, neighbors chatted over fences, and the scent of food wafted from open windows. Yet beneath the surface, he sensed an undercurrent of distrust toward the police. "Things can get tense out here," Jake said, breaking the silence. "Just keep your head on straight, and don't let anyone get under your skin. People can be harsh." Michael nodded, understanding the truth in Jake's words. He knew that the road ahead would not be easy, especially given the history between law enforcement and the community. Their first call came in quickly, a report of a disturbance at a local convenience store. As they arrived on the scene, Michael felt the familiar rush of adrenaline course through him. The store was small, with a few customers inside, but the atmosphere was tense. Jake and Michael entered the store, immediately assessing the situation. The store clerk, a middle-aged man, looked relieved to see them. "Thank you for coming," he said, his voice shaky. "There's a group of guys outside causing trouble." Michael followed Jake outside where a small crowd had gathered. The group was comprised mostly of young men, some of whom eyed the officers with suspicion. "Hey, what's going on here?" Jake called out, his tone authoritative yet calm. One of the young men stepped forward, crossing his arms defiantly. "We're just hanging out. What's your problem?" Michael could sense the tension rising. "We received a call about a disturbance," he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "We're just here to check it out." "Check it out? You mean to harass us?" Another young man spat, his anger palpable. Michael felt the weight of their words, the bitterness evident in their voices. He was acutely aware of the historical context of policing in this community, and he understood that their mistrust was rooted in past experiences. "Look, we're not here to cause any trouble," Michael interjected, striving to defuse the situation. "We just want to make sure everyone is okay." "Yeah, right. You guys don't care about us," a third young man shouted, his frustration evident. As the situation escalated, Michael remembered his training. "Let's just talk about it," he said, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. "We're here to help, not to hurt anyone." Jake chimed in. "We want to understand what's going on. We're not your enemies." Slowly, the group began to quiet down, their anger tempered by the officer's approach. Michael could see the tension in their faces shifting, and he felt a glimmer of hope. "All right, let's talk," the first young man said, his arms dropping to his sides. They spent the next few minutes discussing the situation, and Michael listened intently. He learned about the challenges the community faced, their frustrations, and their desire for a better relationship with the police. In that moment, Michael understood that the path to rebuilding trust would be a long one, but it was worth taking. As the days turned into weeks, Michael and Jake continued to patrol the neighborhood, responding to calls and engaging with the community. Michael made a conscious effort to connect with residents, understanding their concerns and frustrations. He knew that rebuilding trust would require time and commitment. One afternoon, while on foot patrol, they stopped by a local park where children were playing and families gathered. Michael spotted a group of teenagers playing basketball and felt a surge of excitement. "Hey, let's join them," he said, nudging Jake. Jake raised an eyebrow but smiled. "All right, but you're going to have to show off those skills you've been working on." As they approached the court, Michael felt a mix of nerves and anticipation. The teenagers eyed them skeptically, but Michael introduced himself and Jake. "Mind if we play a few rounds?" The teens exchanged glances before one of them shrugged. "Sure, but don't expect to win." Michael laughed, feeling the tension ease as they joined the game. The energy on the court shifted, and as they played, Michael made an effort to connect with the players. "Nice shot," he complimented one of the teenagers after he made a three-pointer. "You've got skills." "Thanks, man. You're not too bad yourself," the teen replied, surprising Michael with a smile. As the game continued, Michael found himself immersed in the camaraderie of the moment. It was refreshing to interact with the community in a positive setting, free from the constraints of their roles as officer and citizen. After the game, Michael took the opportunity to chat with the teenagers. They talked about basketball, their lives, and the challenges they faced in the neighborhood. Michael listened intently, appreciating their honesty and vulnerability. "I know things can be tough," he said, trying to convey empathy. "But we're here to help. If there's anything we can do to make things better, just let us know." One of the teens nodded. "We just want to be heard. It feels like nobody listens to us." Michael felt a pang of guilt. He understood the weight of their words and the importance of representation. "I promise I'll do my best to listen. You guys deserve that." Just when Michael felt he was making progress, an incident shook the precinct to its core. One evening, they received a call about a disturbance at a local bar. As they arrived on the scene, chaos unfolded before them. A crowd had gathered outside the bar, and tensions were high. Michael could see individuals shouting and gesturing wildly, and the atmosphere was charged with anger. "What's going on here?" Jake asked, scanning the crowd for signs of trouble. "They're just fighting." "It's always like this," a bystander shouted, frustration evident in their voice. As they moved closer, Michael caught sight of a familiar face in the crowd, one of the teenagers he had played basketball with earlier that week. The young man was in the thick of it, his expression filled with anger. "Get off him!" the teen yelled, pointing at a man who had been restrained by another officer. Michael's heart raced. He could see that the situation was escalating, and he knew they had to intervene quickly. "Jake, let's move in," he said, determination in his voice. As they approached, Michael saw the young man's frustration transform into rage. "You don't have to treat him like that," he shouted at the officers, his voice filled with emotion. "Step back!" one of the officers barked, his tone aggressive. Michael intervened, raising his hand. "Hold on. Let's talk about this." "Why are you defending him?" the young man shot back, his anger palpable. "You're one of them now." Michael felt the sting of those words. "I'm here to help, remember? Let's not make this worse." The crowd grew restless, their frustration boiling over. Michael took a deep breath, trying to remain calm in the face of the chaos. "Listen to me," he said, projecting his voice over the commotion. "I know things are heated right now. Let's all take a step back and talk about it." For a moment, silence fell over the crowd as they processed his words. Michael felt the weight of their stares, their skepticism palpable. He had to prove that he was different, that he genuinely wanted to help. "Why should we trust you?" the young man demanded, arms crossed defiantly. "Because I care," Michael replied, meeting his gaze. "I grew up in a community just like this, and I want to make things better. We can't solve anything if we're fighting." Slowly, the crowd began to calm down. Michael felt a sense of relief wash over him as they started to listen. He took a step forward, ready to engage in a conversation rather than a confrontation. As tensions eased, Michael continued to talk with the crowd, encouraging them to express their frustrations. He learned about their experiences with police encounters, the fear and anger that had built up over time. The young man he had recognized spoke up, sharing his perspective. "You don't know what it's like for us," he said, his voice cracking. "We're just trying to live our lives, but every time we see a cop, we feel like we're in danger." "I understand," Michael replied, his heart aching for the young man. "I want to change that perception. You deserve to feel safe, and I'm here to listen." For the first time, Michael saw a flicker of hope in the young man's eyes. "You really mean that?" "Absolutely," Michael assured him. "Let's work together to create a better relationship. It starts with conversations like this." As they talked, Michael felt a bond forming. The young man's walls began to crumble, revealing the pain and frustration beneath. After the incident, Michael reflected on the day's events. He had faced hostility, but he had also seen the potential for understanding and connection. The experience reinforced his belief in the importance of building relationships within the community. Back at the precinct, he shared his experience with Jake. "It was intense, but I think we made progress. We need to keep having those conversations." Jake nodded, understanding the significance of Michael's approach. "You did great out there. It's not easy to confront those kinds of situations, but you handled it well." Encouraged by the response, Michael began to brainstorm ways to foster more dialogue between officers and community members. He proposed organizing community forums where residents could voice their concerns and suggestions directly to the police. "Let's invite people to share their stories, their experiences," Michael suggested during a team meeting. "We can show them we're here to listen and work together." The room fell silent for a moment, and Michael felt a wave of uncertainty wash over him. Would his colleagues support such an initiative? Finally, Officer Ramirez spoke up. "I think it's a great idea, Michael. We need to break down those barriers. If we can create a platform for open dialogue, it could make a real difference." Encouraged by the response, Michael felt a surge of hope. With the support of his fellow officers, he began planning the first community forum. Weeks later, the day of the community forum arrived. Michael felt a mix of excitement and nerves as he prepared to address the crowd. They had secured a local community center, and flyers had been distributed throughout the neighborhood. As the attendees began to arrive, Michael greeted them warmly, hoping to create an inviting atmosphere. The room filled with a diverse group of residents, each with their own stories and perspectives. "Thank you all for coming," Michael began, standing at the front of the room. "We're here to listen and to engage in honest conversations about our community and how we can work together to build trust." He felt the weight of their gazes, a mix of curiosity and skepticism. I understand that many of you may have concerns about the police. I'm here to acknowledge those concerns and to show you that we want to be partners in creating a safer community. As the forum progressed, residents began to share their stories. One woman spoke about her experience with racial profiling, recounting a moment when she felt targeted simply because of the color of her skin. "It's exhausting to constantly feel like you're under scrutiny," she said, her voice filled with emotion. Michael listened intently, taking notes and engaging with the audience. He encouraged them to voice their frustrations and aspirations for the future. After several residents shared their experiences, Michael opened the floor for questions. A young man raised his hand, his tone skeptical. "How can we trust you? It feels like nothing ever changes." "I understand your frustration," Michael replied, acknowledging the validity of his concern. "I can't change the past, but I can promise to work towards a better future. It starts with honest communication and accountability." The dialogue continued, and Michael felt the atmosphere begin to shift. As more residents spoke up, sharing their thoughts and suggestions, he could sense the walls beginning to crumble. During the forum, Michael recognized the importance of finding common ground. He encouraged attendees to share their ideas for improving community police relations. One resident suggested creating neighborhood watch programs that involved both officers and community members working together to ensure safety. Another resident proposed regular community events where officers could engage with families in a positive setting. "I love those ideas," Michael said, feeling a surge of hope. "We can collaborate to create opportunities for connection. Let's make it happen." As the evening progressed, the atmosphere grew more relaxed. Michael felt a sense of fulfillment as he watched residents engage in meaningful discussions, their voices being heard. At the end of the forum, Michael expressed his gratitude to everyone who attended. "Thank you for sharing your stories and your insights. This is just the beginning, and I promise to take your feedback seriously." As people began to leave, several residents approached him, expressing appreciation for the forum. "You really listened," one woman said, her eyes shining with gratitude. "It means a lot to us." Michael smiled, feeling a sense of pride swell within him. He understood that building trust was a continuous journey, but the first steps had been taken. However, the road ahead was not without obstacles. As Michael continued to engage with the community, he faced pushback from some officers within the precinct. A few colleagues questioned his commitment to community policing, suggesting that it made them appear weak or lenient. "Why do you care so much about what they think?" one officer, Greg, said during a break. "You're a cop now. Just enforce the law." Michael felt his frustration rising. Because it's not just about enforcing the law, it's about building trust and understanding. We can't do our jobs effectively if the community doesn't trust us. Greg rolled his eyes, dismissing Michael's perspective. "You're too idealistic. This is reality. Get used to it." The exchange left Michael feeling disheartened, but he refused to let it deter him. He understood that change would take time, and that not everyone would be on board with his vision. As weeks turned into months, the precinct faced a significant challenge. A high-profile incident involving police use of force had garnered media attention and ignited protests in the community. The tension was palpable as officers prepared for the potential backlash. During a briefing, the precinct captain addressed the officers. "We need to be prepared. The community is upset, and we have to respond appropriately." Michael felt a knot form in his stomach. He understood the gravity of the situation and the importance of maintaining open lines of communication with the community. After the briefing, Michael approached the captain. "I think we should hold a community forum to address their concerns directly. We need to show them we're willing to listen." The captain hesitated, weighing the options. "We need to tread carefully. I'll consider it, but we have to be strategic." Michael felt a surge of frustration. He knew that transparency was crucial, especially in times of crisis. He wanted to advocate for the community, to be the voice that they desperately needed. As the situation unfolded, protests erupted in the community. People gathered to voice their anger and frustration, demanding accountability from the police. Michael felt a deep sense of empathy for the residents, recognizing the pain and trauma that had fueled their actions. He watched from the sidelines as his fellow officers attempted to maintain order. The atmosphere was tense, and the divide between the police and the community felt wider than ever. In a moment of clarity, Michael made the decision to engage directly with the protesters. Armed with his badge and a commitment to open dialogue, he approached a group gathered in front of the precinct. "Can we talk?" he asked, raising his hands to signal peace. The crowd turned to him, skepticism evident in their expressions. "I'm Officer Carter, and I want to listen to your concerns," he continued. "I understand you're frustrated, and I'm here to hear you out." One of the protesters stepped forward, a young woman named Maya. "You don't understand. This isn't just about one incident. It's about a system that continuously fails us." "I know," Michael replied, his heart heavy with understanding. "But I want to be part of the change. We can't fix things if we don't talk." Maya studied him for a moment before nodding. "All right, let's talk. But don't expect us to just accept what you say." Michael welcomed the challenge, feeling a sense of purpose. He spent the next hour listening to their grievances, acknowledging their pain, and discussing ways to move forward together. Inspired by the conversation, Michael proposed the idea of forming a community advisory board. "Let's create a space where residents can come together with officers to discuss issues, concerns, and solutions," he suggested. Maya's eyes lit up at the idea. "That could work, but it has to be real. No more token gestures." "Absolutely," Michael agreed. "We need to make sure it's meaningful." With Maya's support, they began drafting a proposal for the Community Advisory Board. They wanted to ensure that residents felt empowered, and that their voices would be heard in the decision-making process. As they worked together, Michael felt a sense of hope. He could see the potential for change, and the collaboration was a powerful reminder of the importance of unity. However, not everyone in the precinct shared Michael's vision. Some officers were resistant to the idea of involving the community in policing decisions. They viewed it as a threat to their authority. "Why should we let them dictate how we do our jobs?" Greg challenged during a meeting. "We're the ones trained to handle these situations." Michael felt his frustration boiling over. "Because we're supposed to serve the community. If we don't listen to them, we'll never gain their trust." The room fell silent as tension hung in the air. Michael could sense the divide growing between those who supported his initiative and those who opposed it. As the weeks passed, Michael continued to advocate for the Community Advisory Board, and slowly, some officers began to come around. They recognized that the community's input could help them navigate the complexities of policing. After months of planning, the day finally arrived for the launch of the Community Advisory Board. Michael felt a mix of excitement and anxiety as he prepared to address the crowd. He knew that this was a significant step toward rebuilding trust. As residents gathered at the community center, Michael stood at the front of the room, ready to welcome them. "Thank you all for being here today," he began, his voice steady. "We're starting a new chapter in our relationship with the community. This advisory board is a space for your voices to be heard, and we want to work together to create a safer environment for everyone." As the meeting unfolded, residents shared their thoughts and concerns. They discussed issues ranging from community safety to mental health resources, and Michael took diligent notes, eager to address their needs. "I want to assure you that your voices matter," he reiterated. "Together, we can create meaningful change." The atmosphere shifted from skepticism to hope, as residents began to engage in open dialogue with the officers. Michael felt a sense of accomplishment as he watched the barriers between the police and the community start to break down. Just when it seemed like progress was being made, another incident occurred that threatened to derail their efforts. A video surfaced online showing an officer using excessive force during an arrest in a neighboring precinct. The video quickly went viral, sparking outrage across the community. Protests erupted once again, and the community demanded accountability. Michael felt a knot form in his stomach as he recognized the potential setback to their hard-won progress. During a briefing, the precinct captain addressed the officers. "We need to be prepared for the backlash. The community is angry, and we need to maintain control." Michael raised his hand, feeling a sense of urgency. "We should reach out to the community. We need to be transparent and show that we're committed to accountability." The captain hesitated but eventually nodded. "All right, we'll hold a meeting to address the community's concerns." As the meeting approached, Michael felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. He knew that this was a crucial moment for the precinct, and he was determined to be a voice for the community. The night of the community meeting arrived, and the atmosphere was tense. Residents filled the room, their anger palpable. Michael stood at the front, ready to address the crowd. "Thank you all for coming," he began, his heart racing. "We're here to listen to your concerns and discuss how we can move forward together." The crowd erupted with questions and demands for accountability. One resident stood up, pointing an accusing finger. "How can we trust you when your own officers are acting like this? This isn't the first time." Michael felt the weight of their words. "I understand your frustration, and I want to assure you that we take these issues seriously. We are committed to holding ourselves accountable and working towards positive change." As the meeting continued, tensions flared, and emotions ran high. Residents shared their stories of fear and mistrust, and Michael listened intently, acknowledging their pain. "I can't promise that things will change overnight," he said, his voice steady. "But I can promise that we're committed to doing better. We want to earn your trust." The meeting concluded, and while the atmosphere remained tense, Michael felt a sense of hope. He knew that they were moving in the right direction, even if the road ahead would be difficult. In the days that followed, the precinct faced intense scrutiny from the media and the community. Officers were on high alert, and tensions ran high. Michael felt the pressure as he continued to patrol the neighborhood, aware of the impact of recent events. One afternoon, as they patrolled a familiar area, they encountered a group of teenagers hanging out near the park. Michael felt a sense of familiarity as he approached them. "Hey guys, how's it going?" he called out, hoping to engage them. The teenagers looked at him warily, their expressions guarded. One of them, the young man he had played basketball with, stepped forward. "What do you want?" Michael felt the tension in the air. "I just wanted to check in and see how things are. I know there's been a lot going on." The young man crossed his arms. "What's there to check in about? You're just here to enforce the law." "No, I'm here to listen," Michael replied, his voice steady. "I want to understand how you're feeling, especially with everything happening in the community." For a moment, silence hung in the air. The young man's expression softened, and he sighed. "It's just frustrating. We don't feel safe, even when you guys are around." "I get that," Michael said, his heart aching for the young man's pain. "But I want to change that. I want to be someone you can trust." The group began to share their thoughts and experiences, and for the first time Michael felt a sense of connection. They talked about their fears, their hopes, and their frustrations, and Michael listened intently, realizing that these conversations were essential for healing. As the weeks turned into months, the precinct began to see the impact of their community engagement efforts. The advisory board provided a platform for open dialogue, and residents began to feel more empowered to voice their concerns. Michael continued to work closely with Maya and the other community leaders, collaborating on initiatives that aimed to bridge the gap between the police and the community. They organized community events, workshops, and forums that focused on education and empowerment. Through it all, Michael faced resistance from some officers who were skeptical of the changes. They questioned his commitment and expressed concerns about compromising their authority. "You're going soft on them," Greg said one day during a meeting. "They don't deserve our trust." Michael felt a surge of frustration. It's not about being soft, it's about building relationships. If we want to serve the community effectively, we need to understand their needs and concerns. As tensions rose within the precinct, Michael remained committed to his vision. He understood that change would take time, but he believed that the community deserved a police force that was willing to listen and learn. Months later, Michael and Maya organized a community event aimed at fostering positive interactions between residents and officers. They set up booths, games for children, and activities that encouraged engagement. As families arrived, Michael felt a sense of excitement in the air. The event was designed to break down barriers and create a sense of unity within the community. "Welcome, everyone," Michael called out, his voice filled with enthusiasm. "Thank you for joining us today. We're here to celebrate our community and build relationships." Throughout the day, Michael engaged with residents, playing games with children and answering questions about law enforcement. The atmosphere was positive, and he could see the community starting to open up. As the sun began to set, Michael gathered everyone for a closing speech. Thank you all for being here today. It's crucial that we continue to build these connections. Your voices matter, and together, we can create a safer, stronger community. As the event concluded, Michael felt a sense of fulfillment. He had witnessed the power of community engagement and the importance of fostering trust between law enforcement and residents. However, just as things seemed to be improving, Michael faced one final challenge that would test everything he had worked for. An incident occurred in a neighboring precinct that reignited tensions in the community. A video surfaced showing an officer using excessive force during an arrest, leading to protests and demands for accountability. The news hit the precinct hard, and Michael felt the weight of frustration and anger among the community. He understood that they were facing a crucial moment, a turning point that could either break the fragile trust they had built or solidify it. As protests erupted in the streets, Michael knew he had to take action. He organized a community meeting to address the concerns and fears of residents, hoping to reassure them that they were committed to accountability. During the meeting, tensions were high as residents expressed their anger and frustration. Michael listened intently, acknowledging their pain and validating their concerns. "We're here to listen and to be held accountable," he said, his voice steady. "We want to work together to ensure that incidents like this never happen again." The room erupted in applause, and Michael felt a surge of hope. He understood that the road to rebuilding trust would be long, but he was committed to being a part of the solution. In the months that followed, the precinct took significant steps toward accountability and transparency. Michael worked alongside community leaders to establish protocols for handling complaints and ensuring that residents felt empowered to voice their concerns. As the Community Advisory Board continued to meet regularly, residents began to see tangible changes in the department's approach. They felt more engaged and involved in shaping policies that directly impacted their lives. Michael felt a sense of pride in the progress they had made. He had witnessed the power of listening and understanding, and he understood that their efforts were beginning to bear fruit. As he patrolled the neighborhood, Michael felt a renewed sense of purpose. He was no longer just an officer enforcing the law. He was a member of the community, dedicated to building bridges and fostering trust. Reflecting on his journey, Michael recognized that the path to change was not easy. He had faced prejudice, skepticism, and resistance, but he had also found allies and forged connections that made the journey worthwhile. Through his determination to engage with the community and address their concerns, he had begun to change the narrative surrounding policing. He understood that it was not enough to wear the badge. It was essential to earn the trust that came with it. As he continued to serve the community, Michael felt a deep sense of responsibility. He was committed to ensuring that the police force represented not just authority, but also compassion, understanding, and a willingness to learn. With each interaction, each conversation, he was reminded of the power of connection and the importance of working together to create a brighter future for all. Michael Carter took a deep breath as he stood outside the precinct, a mix of excitement and anxiety bubbling inside him. He had officially graduated from the police academy, and now it was time for his first assignment. The weight of responsibility hung heavily on his shoulders, and he knew that every decision he made would not only affect his future, but also the lives of those in the community he was sworn to protect. After weeks of preparation and community engagement, Michael was ready to hit the streets. He had trained tirelessly, learned the law, and even navigated the complexities of community relationships. Now he was about to put everything he had learned into practice. As he gathered his gear, Michael reflected on his journey so far. From the moment he witnessed the injustices faced by his friend Jamal, he had dedicated himself to becoming a police officer who would make a difference. His experiences in the academy and the community had shaped his perspective, and he was determined to approach his new role with integrity and empathy. "Remember, you're not just wearing a badge, you're representing a community," Sergeant Collins had told him during their last conversation. Those words echoed in his mind as he walked toward the patrol car, ready to embrace the challenges ahead. Michael met up with his partner, Officer Jake Henderson, who was waiting for him by their patrol car. Jake had been a supportive ally throughout their training, and Michael felt grateful to have him by his side as he navigated his first day on the job. "Ready to roll?" Jake asked, a playful grin on his face. "Let's do this," Michael replied, feeling a surge of adrenaline. They climbed into the patrol car, and Michael took a moment to familiarize himself with the equipment. The radio crackled to life, filling the vehicle with the sounds of dispatchers and ongoing calls. Michael felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension. This was it, the moment he had worked so hard for. As they drove through the neighborhood, Michael took in the sights and sounds around him. The streets were alive with people going about their daily lives, children playing, families gathering, and local businesses bustling. He felt a deep sense of responsibility to protect and serve these residents, knowing that his actions would have a lasting impact. Their first call came in quickly, a report of a suspicious person loitering outside a local convenience store. Michael felt his heart race as they arrived on the scene. He scanned the area looking for any signs of trouble. "There he is," Jake pointed out, nodding toward a young man standing near the entrance of the store. Michael observed the situation carefully. The young man appeared to be in his early 20s, wearing a hoodie and looking somewhat anxious. He fidgeted with his hands, glancing around as if he were waiting for someone. "Let's approach him," Jake suggested, and Michael nodded in agreement. As they stepped out of the cruiser, Michael felt a familiar rush of adrenaline. This was the moment he had been preparing for, and he was determined to handle it with professionalism. "Hey there, can we talk for a moment?" Jake called out, walking toward the young man. The young man tensed up, his eyes widening as the officers approached. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice shaky. "We received a call about some suspicious activity in the area," Michael said, trying to keep his tone calm and friendly. "We just want to check in with you. Is everything all right?" "I'm just waiting for my friend," the young man replied, his voice defensive. Michael sensed the tension and understood that they needed to de-escalate the situation. "We're not here to cause any trouble. We just want to make sure everything is okay. What's your name?" "Jamal," he said, his shoulders relaxing slightly. "Nice to meet you, Jamal. Do you mind if we ask what you're waiting for?" Michael continued, maintaining eye contact to convey sincerity. "Just my buddy. He's coming to pick me up," Jamal explained, glancing nervously at the store. Michael nodded, his instincts telling him that the young man wasn't a threat. "All right, thanks for letting us know. We just want to ensure that everyone feels safe in the neighborhood." As they chatted, Michael could see Jamal beginning to relax. The tension that had initially filled the air dissipated as they engaged in a conversation. After a few moments, Michael decided to take a more personal approach. "You know, I grew up in this neighborhood too. I understand that sometimes it can feel like the police are here to cause problems instead of help." Jamal looked surprised. "Really? I didn't think officers cared about that." Michael smiled, recognizing the opportunity to break down barriers. "I do care. That's why I became a police officer. I want to make a positive impact and build trust in the community." Jamal nodded slowly, the walls around him beginning to crumble. "I appreciate that. It's just hard sometimes, you know." "I get it," Michael replied, "but I'm here to listen. If you ever feel uncomfortable or have concerns, please reach out. We're not just here to enforce the law, we're here to serve you." As they concluded their conversation, Jamal appeared more at ease. "Thanks for being cool about it, man. I'll keep that in mind." Michael felt a sense of accomplishment as they walked back to the cruiser. He had managed to engage positively with a member of the community, reinforcing the importance of communication and understanding. Their next call came in shortly after, this time a report of a domestic disturbance in a nearby apartment complex. Michael felt a surge of adrenaline as they arrived on the scene. The atmosphere was tense, and he could hear raised voices coming from one of the units. As they approached the apartment, Jake turned to Michael. "Remember what we learned in the academy. Stay calm, assess the situation, and prioritize safety." Michael nodded, recalling the training they had undergone. He understood the importance of de-escalation in domestic disputes, especially given the potential for volatility. As they knocked on the door, a woman's voice called out, "Just a minute." Moments later, the door swung open, revealing a distressed woman with tears streaming down her face. "Please, you have to help. He won't stop," she pleaded, her voice filled with desperation. Michael stepped forward, immediately sensing the urgency of the situation. "Ma'am, we're here to help. Can you tell us what's going on?" She led them into the apartment, where a man stood near the kitchen, visibly agitated. The tension in the air was palpable, and Michael felt a sense of urgency. "Get out of here! You're not taking her away from me!" the man shouted, his voice laced with anger. "Sir, we need to talk to you," Jake said, attempting to maintain a calm demeanor. "Stay away from me!" the man yelled, clenching his fists. Michael stepped in, his heart racing. "Listen, we're not here to escalate anything. We just want to understand what's happening." As they engaged with the man, Michael's training kicked in. He assessed the situation, observing the signs of agitation and distress. He needed to de-escalate this before it turned violent. "Let's take a breath," Michael said, trying to remain calm. "Can you tell us what led to this?" The man's anger began to wane as Michael spoke. He glanced at the woman, and for a moment, the tension in the room softened. "Everything's fine," the man muttered, his voice losing some of its edge. Michael could sense the internal struggle within the man. "It's okay to be upset. We all have tough moments, but we're here to help." As the conversation unfolded, Michael and Jake worked together to facilitate dialogue between the couple. They listened to both sides, allowing the woman to express her fears while also acknowledging the man's frustration. Michael knew that domestic disturbances could escalate quickly, and he was determined to ensure everyone's safety. "We're not here to take sides. Our goal is to make sure everyone is safe." The man began to calm down as he heard Michael's words. I don't want her to leave," he admitted, his voice breaking. "Let's talk about this," Michael encouraged, his tone empathetic. "We can find a way to address the issues you're facing without it escalating further." Slowly, the man began to share his feelings of insecurity and fear of losing control. Michael could see the vulnerability beneath the anger, and he recognized the importance of guiding the conversation toward resolution. "Relationships can be tough, and it's normal to feel overwhelmed sometimes," Michael said gently. "But there are ways to work through these feelings without resorting to anger." As the conversation progressed, the atmosphere in the apartment shifted. The man began to open up about his struggles, sharing the pressures he faced at work and the stress that had built up over time. "I didn't mean to lash out," he confessed, his voice filled with remorse. "I just feel like I'm losing everything." Michael nodded, recognizing the depth of his emotions. "It's okay to ask for help. You're not alone in this." The woman looked at her partner, her expression softening. "We can work through this together," she said, her voice trembling. In that moment, the tension in the room began to dissipate. Michael felt a sense of fulfillment as he witnessed the couple reconnecting, their vulnerabilities exposed but met with understanding. "Let's take this one step at a time," Michael suggested. "We can help you find resources for counseling or support services if you're open to it." The couple exchanged glances, and for the first time they seemed to find common ground. Michael could sense that they were willing to work together to address their challenges. As the situation resolved, Michael felt a surge of satisfaction. They had navigated a potentially volatile situation and guided the couple toward a path of understanding. He knew that not every call would end this way, but moments like these reaffirmed his commitment to community policing. As they left the apartment, Jake turned to Michael with a grin. "You handled that like a pro. I didn't think we'd get through to him." Michael smiled, feeling a sense of pride. "It's all about listening and finding common ground. We need to be the ones to break the cycle." Their patrol continued, and as they drove through the neighborhood, Michael felt a renewed sense of purpose. He was determined to build relationships, one interaction at a time. However, not every call would end positively. One evening, they responded to a report of gunshots fired in a nearby area. As they arrived on the scene, Michael felt a rush of adrenaline, knowing that this could be a dangerous situation. "Stay alert," Jake reminded him as they exited the cruiser. They approached a small gathering of bystanders who were visibly shaken. "Did anyone see what happened?" Michael asked, scanning the crowd for answers. One man stepped forward, his expression tense. "There was a fight, and then shots were fired. I don't know who did it." Michael felt his heart race as he assessed the situation. The crowd was anxious, and he could sense the fear lingering in the air. He knew that they needed to maintain control and ensure everyone's safety. "All right, let's keep this area clear," Jake instructed, trying to manage the crowd. As they spoke with witnesses, it became clear that tensions were high in the community. Some residents expressed frustration with the police, feeling that their concerns were often ignored. Michael listened intently, knowing that this was a crucial moment for rebuilding trust. "I understand your frustrations, and I want you to know that we're here to help. If you have any information about what happened, please share it with us." The atmosphere remained tense, but Michael's commitment to communication began to resonate with some members of the crowd. Slowly, a few individuals stepped forward to share their insights, acknowledging the importance of cooperation in resolving the situation. In the days that followed, the precinct faced the aftermath of the shooting. The community was on edge and tensions ran high. Michael felt the weight of responsibility as he patrolled the neighborhood, aware of the impact of recent events. During a team meeting at the precinct, the captain addressed the officers. "We need to strengthen our community relations and ensure that we're visible and approachable during this time." Michael raised his hand. "I think we should organize community meetings to address the concerns directly. Residents need to feel heard, and we can't just ignore the situation." The captain nodded thoughtfully. "That's a good idea. We need to engage with the community proactively and ensure they know we're here to support them." As they began planning community meetings, Michael felt a sense of hope. He knew that open dialogue was essential for rebuilding trust, and he was committed to being a part of that process. The first community meeting took place at the local community center, and residents from all walks of life gathered to voice their concerns. Michael felt a mix of excitement and nerves as he prepared to address the crowd. "Thank you all for coming tonight," he began, his voice steady. "We're here to listen to your concerns and work together to create a safer community." As residents spoke up, Michael listened intently to their frustrations and fears. They shared stories of feeling unsafe in their own neighborhoods and expressed a desire for greater accountability from the police. "I just want to feel safe when I walk down the street," one resident said, her voice trembling. "How can we trust you when there's so much fear?" Michael nodded, understanding the gravity of her words. "I know that trust has been broken, and I want to work to rebuild it. We're committed to being transparent and accountable." The conversation continued, and as Michael engaged with the residents, he felt a sense of purpose. He was determined to be a bridge between the community and law enforcement, advocating for understanding and collaboration. In the following weeks, Michael and his fellow officers worked diligently to foster relationships within the community. They organized neighborhood events, participated in local initiatives, and encouraged open dialogue. As Michael continued to patrol the streets, he felt a growing sense of connection with the residents. He often stopped to chat with families, listened to their concerns, and offered support wherever he could. One day, while on patrol, Michael encountered a group of children playing basketball in a park. He felt a familiar rush of excitement as he approached. "Mind if I join you?" he asked, smiling. The children exchanged glances, their faces lighting up with enthusiasm. "Yeah, come on!" As they played, Michael enjoyed the laughter and energy of the moment. He felt a sense of belonging, knowing that these interactions were vital for rebuilding trust in the community. After the game, he took the opportunity to engage with the kids. "You guys have some serious skills. Are you playing in any leagues?" One boy, eager to show off, replied, "We play every Saturday. You should come watch." Michael smiled, feeling a sense of warmth. "I'd love to. You all keep working hard, and I'll see you at the next game." However, the road to building trust was not without its challenges. One afternoon, Michael responded to a report of vandalism in a local park. As they arrived on the scene, they encountered a group of teenagers who were clearly agitated. "What are you doing here?" one of the teens shouted, his voice filled with hostility. Michael felt the tension in the air. "We're here to investigate the vandalism. Can you tell us what happened?" "We didn't do anything. You're just here to blame us," the teen replied defensively. Michael took a deep breath, trying to remain calm. "I'm not here to blame anyone. I just want to understand what happened." As they engaged in conversation, Michael could sense the anger and frustration simmering beneath the surface. He listened intently, acknowledging their feelings and trying to build rapport. "I know it can feel like the police are always watching," he said, his tone empathetic. "But we want to work with you, not against you. The teen's expression softened slightly. "You don't understand what it's like. We feel like we're always under a microscope." Michael nodded, recognizing the validity of their concerns. "I get that, and I want to change that perception. How can we work together to improve things?" As the conversation progressed, Michael encouraged the teens to share their ideas for improving the relationship between the police and the community. They expressed a desire for more positive interactions and opportunities for dialogue. "We want to feel like we can talk to you without being judged," one of the teens admitted. Michael felt a surge of hope. "That's exactly what we're working towards. Let's create opportunities for conversations where we can all feel comfortable." They began discussing potential initiatives, including community events that would bring officers and residents together. Michael felt a sense of excitement as he envisioned a future where the community and police could collaborate for positive change. As weeks passed, Michael continued to focus on community engagement, participating in events, and encouraging open dialogue. He understood that rebuilding trust required consistent effort and commitment. One day, Michael attended a neighborhood meeting where residents shared their concerns about safety and crime. The atmosphere was tense, but Michael felt determined to address the issues head-on. "I want to hear your thoughts," he said, his voice steady. "What can we do to improve safety in our neighborhood?" Residents expressed a range of concerns, from the need for increased police presence to better community programs. Michael listened intently, taking notes and acknowledging their frustrations. "I appreciate your honesty," he said. "We're committed to working with you to find solutions. Your voices matter, and we want to make sure we're meeting your needs." As the meeting continued, Michael felt a sense of progress. Residents were starting to feel heard, and the dialogue was shifting toward collaboration. As Michael drove home that evening, he reflected on the challenges and triumphs he had faced in his role as a police officer. He understood that rebuilding trust was a continuous journey, one that required patience, understanding, and a willingness to listen. He remembered the words of Officer Ramirez. "You are not just officers, you are ambassadors for justice." Those words echoed in his mind as he considered the impact of his actions on the community. With determination, Michael vowed to continue advocating for change, to be a voice for those who felt unheard, and to work tirelessly to build bridges between the police and the residents. However, just when it seemed like progress was being made, Michael faced a significant challenge that would test everything he had worked for. One evening, they received a report of shots fired in a nearby neighborhood, and as they arrived on the scene, chaos unfolded before them. A crowd had gathered, and the tension in the air was palpable. Michael could see the flashing lights of other patrol cars, and he felt a rush of adrenaline as they moved toward the commotion. "Stay alert," Jake whispered, his expression serious. As they approached, they could see a young man lying on the ground, bleeding and unconscious. Michael's heart raced as he assessed the situation. The crowd was frantic, and he could sense the fear and anger simmering beneath the surface. "Call for medical assistance," Jake shouted, quickly taking control of the situation. Michael moved closer to the victim, trying to assess his injuries. The crowd began to shout, their anger directed at the officers. "Why are you here?" "He needs help," one woman yelled, her voice filled with desperation. "We're here to help him," Michael replied, trying to maintain a calm demeanor. "We're calling for medical assistance right now." The chaos continued to escalate, and Michael felt the weight of responsibility. He knew that their actions would have repercussions, and he was determined to ensure that they handled the situation with care. As the medical team arrived and took over the scene, Michael felt a mix of relief and concern. They had managed to stabilize the young man, but the anger of the crowd remained. "Why does this keep happening?" a bystander shouted, frustration evident in his voice. "What are you doing to protect us?" Michael felt the sting of those words. He understood the anger that fueled the crowd, and he knew that rebuilding trust would be a long and difficult process. As the situation began to calm down, Michael approached the bystander. "I understand your frustration, and I want you to know that we're committed to making this community safer. We're here to listen and work together." The man looked at Michael, his expression softening slightly. "You're the first officer who's actually talked to me like this." Michael felt a glimmer of hope. "It's important for me to connect with the community, I want to understand your concerns and work together to find solutions. In the days following the incident, the precinct faced intense scrutiny from the media and the community. Protests erupted once again, and Michael felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. He knew that they needed to rebuild trust and show the community that they were committed to making a difference. During a community meeting, Michael stood before the crowd, ready to address their concerns. I want to thank you all for coming today, he began, his voice steady. I understand that the recent incident has raised a lot of concerns, and I want to assure you that we're committed to being transparent and accountable. As he spoke, he could feel the skepticism in the room. Residents were angry and frustrated, and he knew that words alone would not be enough to rebuild trust. I'm here to listen, he continued. I want to hear your thoughts, your concerns, and your suggestions. Together we can create a safer community. The crowd began to respond, voicing their frustrations and demands for accountability. Michael listened intently, taking notes and engaging with residents. He felt a sense of purpose as he witnessed the community coming together, united in their desire for change. After weeks of planning, Michael and Maya proposed a new initiative, a community police partnership program that would involve regular meetings between officers and residents. The goal was to create a space for open dialogue and collaboration, allowing residents to voice their concerns and contribute to decision-making. As they presented the idea to the precinct captain, Michael felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. We need to show the community that we're serious about rebuilding trust, he said. This program could help us foster relationships and address concerns directly. The captain considered the proposal. It's a good idea, Michael, but it's going to take time and commitment from all of us. Michael nodded, determined to make it happen. I'm willing to put in the effort. We need to show the community that we're dedicated to change. The first meeting of the Community Police Partnership Program took place at the community center, and residents filled the room, eager to engage with officers. Michael felt a surge of hope as he watched people coming together, ready to voice their concerns and collaborate for positive change. Thank you all for being here today, Michael began, standing at the front of the room. This is an opportunity for us to listen to your thoughts and work together to create a safer community. As residents began to speak, Michael felt the weight of their words. They shared stories of fear, frustration, and a desire for better communication with the police. Michael listened intently, taking notes and encouraging dialogue. I just want to feel safe in my own neighborhood, one woman said, her voice trembling. How can we trust you when things keep happening? Michael nodded, acknowledging her concerns. I understand, and I want you to know that we're here to listen and to work with you. It starts with conversations like this. As the meeting continued, Michael felt a sense of connection forming between the residents and the officers. They began to discuss potential solutions, brainstorming ideas for improving safety and fostering relationships. Over the following weeks, the Community Police Partnership Program began to gain momentum. Residents and officers engaged in open dialogue, sharing their experiences and working together to find solutions. Michael felt a sense of pride as he witnessed the community coming together, united in their desire for positive change. However, challenges remained. Some officers were still resistant to the idea of community engagement, viewing it as a threat to their authority. Michael knew that he had to continue advocating for the importance of building relationships with residents. During a team meeting, he addressed his fellow officers. We need to recognize that our role goes beyond enforcing the law. We are here to serve the community, and that means building trust and understanding. Some officers nodded in agreement, while others remained skeptical. Michael understood that change would take time, but he was determined to push forward. Just when it seemed like progress was being made, an incident occurred that would test everything Michael had worked for. A viral video surfaced showing a confrontation between police and a young black man, leading to protests and demands for accountability. The video reignited tensions in the community, and Michael felt a sense of dread wash over him. He knew that this incident could undermine their efforts to rebuild trust. During a community meeting, residents expressed their anger and frustration. This keeps happening. How can we trust you when we see things like this? One resident shouted. Michael felt the weight of their words. I understand your pain, and I want to assure you that we're committed to accountability. We're here to listen and to work together. As the meeting continued, tensions remained high, but Michael refused to back down. He was determined to advocate for transparency and accountability, knowing that the community deserved nothing less. In the weeks that followed, the precinct worked to address the concerns raised by the community. Michael and his fellow officers participated in community forums, engaging in open dialogue and encouraging residents to voice their thoughts. As he patrolled the neighborhood, Michael felt a sense of responsibility. He understood that rebuilding trust would require consistent effort and commitment. During one patrol, Michael encountered a group of children playing in a park. He felt a surge of joy as he approached them, eager to engage. "Hey, everyone! How's it going?" he called out, a smile on his face. The children looked up, their faces lighting up with excitement. "Officer Carter, can we play basketball?" "Absolutely," Michael replied, feeling a sense of camaraderie. As they played, Michael felt a sense of connection with the children. He knew that these interactions were vital for rebuilding trust in the community. After the game, Michael took a moment to talk with the children. "You guys did great out there. Are you planning to join a league?" One boy nodded enthusiastically. "Yeah, we're practicing every week." "That's awesome. Keep working hard, and I'll come watch your games," Michael promised. As the months passed, the Community Police Partnership Program continued to thrive. Residents began to feel more empowered, and their voices were being heard in the decision-making process. Michael felt a sense of fulfillment as he witnessed the positive impact of their efforts. However, challenges remained. Some residents were still skeptical of the police, and Michael understood that rebuilding trust was a continuous journey. During a community meeting, he addressed the residents. "I want to thank you all for your commitment to this process. Your voices matter, and we're here to work together to create a safer community." As he spoke, he felt a sense of connection forming between the residents and the officers. They were beginning to see one another as allies in the fight for justice. However, just when it seemed like things were improving, another incident occurred that would test their progress. A high-profile case of police misconduct in a neighboring city reignited tensions in the community. Protests erupted once again, and residents expressed their anger and frustration. Michael felt a knot form in his stomach as he recognized the potential setback. He understood that rebuilding trust would take time, but he also knew that they had made significant progress. During a community meeting, residents voiced their concerns once again. "How can we trust you when incidents like this keep happening?" one resident demanded. Michael nodded, acknowledging the pain in the room. "I understand your frustration. I can't change the past, but I can promise to work towards a better future. We need to continue these conversations and hold ourselves accountable." The atmosphere was tense, but Michael felt a sense of hope as they engaged in open dialogue. He knew that this was a crucial moment for rebuilding trust and ensuring that residents felt heard. In the weeks that followed, the precinct continued to engage with the community, participating in forums and encouraging open dialogue. Michael remained committed to advocating for transparency and accountability. As he patrolled the neighborhood, Michael felt a growing sense of connection with the residents. He understood that rebuilding trust required consistent effort and commitment, and he was determined to be a part of that process. One day, as he walked through the park, he encountered a group of children playing. He felt a sense of joy as he approached them, eager to engage. "Hey, everyone! How's it going?" he called out, a smile on his face. The children looked up, their faces lighting up with excitement. "Officer Carter, can we play basketball?" "Absolutely," Michael replied, feeling a sense of camaraderie. As they played, Michael felt a sense of connection with the children. He knew that these interactions were vital for rebuilding trust in the community. After the game, Michael took a moment to talk with the children. "You guys did great out there. Are you planning to join a league?" One boy nodded enthusiastically. "Yeah, we're practicing every week." "That's awesome. Keep working hard, and I'll come watch your games," Michael promised. Reflecting on his journey, Michael recognized that the path to change was not easy. He had faced challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt, but he had also found allies and forged connections that made the journey worthwhile. Through his determination to engage with the community and address their concerns, he had begun to change the narrative surrounding policing. He understood that it was not enough to wear the badge. It was essential to earn the trust that came with it. As he continued to serve the community, Michael felt a deep sense of responsibility. He was committed to ensuring that the police force represented not just authority, but also compassion, understanding, and a willingness to learn. With each interaction, each conversation, he was reminded of the power of connection and the importance of working together to create a brighter future for all. Michael Carter felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety as he prepared for his first official assignment as a police officer. It was a chilly morning, and the sun was just beginning to rise over the city, casting a warm glow on the streets. Today marked the beginning of a new chapter, and he was ready to step into his role as a protector of the community. The precinct buzzed with activity as officers prepared for their shifts. Michael had arrived early, wanting to familiarize himself with the procedures and expectations of his new role. As he gathered his gear, he couldn't help but feel the weight of responsibility resting on his shoulders. He was aware that the community had high expectations of him, and he wanted to meet those expectations head-on. "Good morning, Officer Carter," greeted Officer Jake Henderson, Michael's partner from the academy, as he walked in. Jake was already dressed in his uniform, looking sharp and ready to go. "Morning, Jake. Ready for our first day?" Michael replied, trying to match Jake's enthusiasm. "Absolutely. Let's make a difference out there," Jake said, a confident smile on his face. As they walked toward their patrol car, Michael felt a rush of anticipation. He was eager to put into practice everything he had learned during his training. The academy had equipped him with the skills and knowledge necessary to navigate the complexities of policing. But he knew that the real challenge lay ahead on the streets. Their first assignment was simple: routine patrol in a neighborhood that had seen its share of crime and unrest. As they drove through the streets, Michael felt a mix of emotions. He was determined to build trust with the community while also ensuring their safety. "Keep an eye out for anything suspicious," Jake advised as they cruised through the area. "We'll be stopping by local businesses to introduce ourselves too." Michael nodded, eager to engage with the residents. He knew that building relationships was essential to effective policing, and he was committed to making a positive impression. Their first stop was a small grocery store where the owner, Mr. Patel, greeted them with a warm smile. "Officers, welcome. It's good to see you here." "Thanks, Mr. Patel. We just wanted to introduce ourselves and let you know we're here for the community," Michael said, feeling a sense of purpose. Mr. Patel's eyes lit up. "It's nice to have you around. We appreciate your presence. It makes us feel safer." As they chatted with Mr. Patel, Michael felt a sense of accomplishment. This was what he had envisioned when he decided to become a police officer: building relationships and fostering trust within the community. After wrapping up their conversation with Mr. Patel, they received their first call of the day. Dispatch reported a domestic disturbance at a nearby apartment complex, and Michael felt his adrenaline spike. This was the moment he had prepared for, but he also understood the potential dangers involved. "Let's go," Jake said, flipping on the siren as they sped toward the location. Upon arriving at the complex, the tension was palpable. A crowd had gathered outside, and voices were raised in anger. Michael took a deep breath, reminding himself of his training. They needed to approach the situation with empathy and professionalism. As they stepped out of the cruiser, Michael scanned the crowd for signs of trouble. "Stay close," Jake said, his voice low. They made their way through the throng of people and approached the apartment door, where a woman was standing, visibly shaken. "Please, you have to help. He's out of control," she cried, tears streaming down her face. "Ma'am, we're here to assist you. Can you tell us what happened?" Michael asked, his voice calm and steady. "I don't know what to do. He just started yelling and throwing things," she said, pointing toward the apartment. "All right, let's take a look," Jake replied, motioning for the woman to step aside. As they approached the door, Michael felt a sense of urgency. He had learned about domestic disturbances in the academy, and he knew that they could escalate quickly. "We're going to knock. Just remember to stay calm," he said to Jake. Michael knocked firmly on the door. "Police, we need to talk to you." After a tense moment, the door swung open to reveal a man in his 30s, visibly agitated and breathing heavily. "What do you want?" he snapped, his eyes darting between the officers and the woman. "Sir, we're here to ensure everyone is safe." "Can you tell us what's going on?" Jake asked, maintaining a professional tone. The man stepped back, his posture defensive. "I don't want to talk to you. This is none of your business." Michael could see the anger boiling beneath the surface, and he knew they had to de-escalate the situation. "We just want to help. Let's talk about what's happening," he urged, keeping his voice steady. The man clenched his fists, frustration etched on his face. "She's just trying to make me look bad. I didn't do anything wrong." Michael understood that emotions were running high. He stepped forward slightly, lowering his voice. "Let's take a moment. We're not here to judge you. We just want to understand the situation." As the man hesitated, Michael felt a flicker of hope. "Can we come inside and talk?" he suggested. "Fine," the man grumbled, stepping aside to allow them in. Once inside, Michael assessed the apartment. It was messy, with furniture displaced and items scattered on the floor. The atmosphere was tense, and he could sense the underlying conflict between the couple. "Can you tell us what led to this?" Jake asked, keeping his tone neutral. "I was just trying to watch TV and she wouldn't stop nagging me," the man replied, frustration evident in his voice. Michael exchanged glances with Jake, recognizing that this was a delicate situation. "It sounds like there's a lot of stress. Can we help you both find a way to communicate without it escalating?" The woman spoke up, her voice trembling. "He doesn't listen to me. I feel like I'm walking on eggshells all the time." Michael nodded, understanding the importance of communication. "Let's try to talk it out. We're here to help, not to take sides." As they engaged in conversation, Michael encouraged both the man and the woman to express their feelings. He listened intently, providing a safe space for them to share their perspectives. "I just want to feel respected," the woman said, her eyes filled with tears. "I'm tired of feeling ignored." The man shifted uncomfortably, realizing the weight of her words. "I didn't mean to make you feel that way. I just get frustrated." Michael felt a shift in the atmosphere as they began to engage in an open dialogue. "It's okay to feel frustrated. We all have moments of stress, but it's important to find healthy ways to communicate," he said gently. As the conversation continued, Michael guided them toward understanding one another. He emphasized the importance of empathy and compromise, allowing them to express their emotions without fear of judgment. Slowly, the tension began to dissipate, and the couple started to engage in a more constructive conversation. Michael felt a sense of accomplishment as he witnessed them begin to reconnect. After nearly an hour of conversation, Michael felt confident that they had made progress. "I think it's important to consider talking to a counselor who can help you both navigate these challenges," he suggested. The woman nodded, her expression softening. "I think that might be a good idea." The man sighed, looking thoughtful. "Yeah, I guess we could use some help." As they left the apartment, Michael felt a sense of pride in their ability to de-escalate a potentially volatile situation. They had managed to turn a confrontation into a productive dialogue, and he knew that moments like these were crucial for building trust. "Good job in there," Jake said as they walked back to the cruiser. "You really handled that well." "Thanks, man." "It was all about listening," Michael replied, feeling a sense of fulfillment. However, just as things seemed to be going well, another call came in. Dispatch reported a shooting at a nearby bar, and Michael felt his heart race as they sped toward the scene. As they arrived, the atmosphere was chaotic. Officers were cordoning off the area, and medical personnel were attending to the injured. Michael's adrenaline surged as he stepped out of the cruiser, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. "Stay alert," Jake reminded him, scanning the crowd for any signs of trouble. Michael took a deep breath, reminding himself of the importance of remaining calm in the face of chaos. As they moved toward the bar, he felt a sense of urgency. Inside, the scene was overwhelming. The sounds of sirens filled the air, and the injured were being treated on the ground. Michael could see the fear in the eyes of the patrons, and he knew that they needed to establish control. "Let's gather information from witnesses," Jake suggested, and Michael nodded in agreement. As they approached a group of patrons, Michael felt the weight of responsibility. He needed to ensure that they felt safe and secure, even in the midst of chaos. "Can we talk to you for a moment?" Michael asked, trying to project calmness amid the turmoil. One man stepped forward, visibly shaken. "I saw everything. There was an argument, and then shots were fired." Michael listened intently, taking notes as the man described the events leading up to the shooting. "Did you see who was involved?" he asked, hoping to gather crucial information. "It was a group of guys. They were arguing about something, and then it escalated," the man explained, his voice trembling. As Michael engaged with witnesses, he felt the tension in the air. He understood that rebuilding trust in the community would be a long and difficult process, especially after such a traumatic event. In the days that followed, the precinct faced significant scrutiny from the community. Protests erupted once again, and residents expressed their anger and frustration. Michael felt the weight of responsibility as he continued to patrol the neighborhood, aware of the impact of recent events. During a community meeting, residents voiced their concerns about safety and police presence. "How can we trust you when things like this keep happening?" one resident demanded. Michael nodded, acknowledging the pain in the room. "I understand your frustration. We're committed to accountability and transparency. It's important for us to listen to your concerns." As the meeting continued, residents expressed their desire for better communication with the police. They wanted to feel safe and secure in their neighborhood, and Michael knew that he had to do everything he could to address their concerns. In the weeks that followed, Michael continued to focus on community engagement. He participated in local events, attended neighborhood meetings, and worked to foster positive relationships between residents and officers. During one event, Michael encountered a group of children playing in the park. He felt a surge of joy as he approached them, eager to engage. "Hey, everyone! How's it going?" he called out, a smile on his face. The children looked up, their faces lighting up with excitement. "Officer Carter, can we play basketball?" "Absolutely," Michael replied, feeling a sense of camaraderie. As they played, Michael felt a sense of connection with the children. He knew that these interactions were vital for rebuilding trust in the community. After the game, Michael took a moment to talk with the children. "You guys did great out there. Are you planning to join a league?" One boy nodded enthusiastically. "Yeah, we're practicing every week." "That's awesome. Keep working hard, and I'll come watch your games," Michael promised. Inspired by his interactions with the community, Michael proposed a new initiative, a series of community engagement events designed to foster positive relationships between residents and officers. He wanted to create opportunities for dialogue, collaboration, and understanding. During a precinct meeting, he presented his idea to his fellow officers. "We need to show the community that we care about their concerns," he explained. "By organizing events, we can build trust and engage with residents in a positive way." Some officers expressed skepticism, questioning the effectiveness of such initiatives. However, Michael remained committed to his vision. "If we want to change perceptions, we need to be proactive. It's not just about enforcing the law, it's about serving the community." The first community event took place at a local park, and Michael felt a sense of excitement as he prepared to address the crowd. He had organized activities for families, games for children, and opportunities for residents to engage with officers in a positive setting. "Thank you all for being here today," Michael called out, his voice filled with enthusiasm. "This event is about building relationships and fostering trust within our community." As the event unfolded, residents began to engage with officers, sharing their concerns and ideas for improvement. Michael felt a sense of fulfillment as he witnessed the positive interactions taking place. One resident approached him, expressing appreciation for the event. "It's nice to see you all here engaging with us. It makes a difference." Michael smiled, feeling a surge of hope. "We're committed to listening and working together. Your voices matter." As the day continued, Michael participated in games with the children, shared stories with residents, and encouraged open dialogue. He could see the community starting to open up, and it filled him with pride. However, just as things seemed to be improving, Michael faced a significant setback. A viral video surfaced showing an officer using excessive force during an arrest in a neighboring precinct, reigniting tensions within the community. The news hit the precinct hard, and Michael felt the weight of frustration and anger among the community. He understood that the incident had the potential to undermine their efforts to rebuild trust. During a community meeting, residents expressed their anger and frustration once again. "How can we trust you when things like this keep happening?" one resident shouted. Michael nodded, acknowledging the pain in the room. "I understand your frustration, and I want to assure you that we're committed to accountability. We're here to listen and to work together." As the meeting continued, tensions remained high, but Michael refused to back down. He was determined to advocate for transparency and accountability, knowing that the community deserved nothing less. In the weeks that followed, the precinct worked to address the concerns raised by the community. Michael and his fellow officers participated in community forums, engaging in open dialogue and encouraging residents to voice their thoughts. As he patrolled the neighborhood, Michael felt a growing sense of connection with the residents. He understood that rebuilding trust required consistent effort and commitment, and he was determined to be a part of that process. One day, as he walked through the park, he encountered a group of children playing basketball. He felt a sense of joy as he approached them, eager to engage. "Hey, everyone! How's it going?" he called out, a smile on his face. The children looked up, their faces lighting up with excitement. "Officer Carter, can we play basketball?" "Absolutely," Michael replied, feeling a sense of camaraderie. As they played, Michael felt a sense of connection with the children. He knew that these interactions were vital for rebuilding trust in the community. After the game, Michael took a moment to talk with the children. "You guys did great out there. Are you planning to join a league?" One boy nodded enthusiastically. "Yeah, we're practicing every week." "That's awesome. Keep working hard, and I'll come watch your games," Michael promised. Reflecting on his journey, Michael recognized that the path to change was not easy. He had faced challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt, but he had also found allies and forged connections that made the journey worthwhile. Through his determination to engage with the community and address their concerns, he had begun to change the narrative surrounding policing. He understood that it was not enough to wear the badge. It was essential to earn the trust that came with it. As he continued to serve the community, Michael felt a deep sense of responsibility. He was committed to ensuring that the police force represented not just authority, but also compassion, understanding, and a willingness to learn. With each interaction, each conversation, he was reminded of the power of connection and the importance of working together to create a brighter future for all. Michael Carter stepped into the precinct, the hum of activity surrounding him. He had spent the past few months building relationships within the community, and now he was beginning to feel a sense of belonging as an officer. Yet, despite the progress he had made, he knew that the challenges of policing were far from over. As Michael settled at his desk, he received a notification about an upcoming community event that would focus on youth engagement. The event aimed to connect police officers with local teens, providing them with a platform to discuss their concerns and aspirations. Michael felt a surge of excitement. This was an opportunity to make a positive impact and foster trust among the younger generation. "Hey Carter, you in for the youth event next week?" Jake asked, walking over with a cup of coffee in hand. "Definitely. I think it's a great way to engage with the community," Michael replied, his enthusiasm evident. "I agree. It's important to reach out to the kids. They're the future," Jake said, taking a seat across from him. As they discussed the details of the event, Michael felt a renewed sense of purpose. He was determined to use his position to empower the youth in the community, helping them navigate the challenges they faced. In the days leading up to the event, Michael worked tirelessly to ensure everything was in place. He coordinated with local schools, community leaders, and youth organizations to gather participants and promote the event. He wanted to create an environment where the young people felt safe and encouraged to express themselves. As the day of the event approached, Michael found himself reflecting on his own teenage years. He remembered the struggles he faced growing up in a community that often felt divided. He understood the importance of having a supportive network and the need for young people to feel heard. The night before the event, Michael gathered with Jake and a few other officers to finalize their plans. "Let's make sure we create a space where the kids can feel comfortable talking to us," he said, addressing the group. We need to show them that we're here to listen and support them. I'm on board, Jake replied, nodding. This is an important opportunity for all of us. The day of the youth engagement event arrived, and the community center buzzed with energy. Young people filled the room, chatting excitedly as they gathered for the program. Michael felt a rush of anticipation as he prepared to welcome them. All right, everyone. Thank you for being here today, Michael called out, projecting his voice to capture the attention of the crowd. We're excited to spend time with you and hear your thoughts. This is your space to share. The room erupted in applause, and Michael felt a sense of pride. He was ready to engage with the youth and create a dialogue that mattered. As the program unfolded, Michael facilitated discussions on various topics, including safety, education, and community involvement. He encouraged the young people to share their experiences and express their concerns. Don't be afraid to speak up, he urged, creating an atmosphere of trust. Your voices matter, and we're here to listen. One young woman raised her hand, her expression serious. I feel like there's a lot of pressure on us. We want to do well in school, but it feels overwhelming sometimes. Michael nodded, recognizing the weight of her words. That's completely understandable. School can be tough, but remember, you're not alone. We're here to support you. As the discussions continued, Michael felt a sense of connection forming between the officers and the youth. They shared their stories, their dreams, and their challenges, and he could see the impact of their conversations. Midway through the event, Michael noticed a group of young men standing at the back, their arms crossed and expressions skeptical. He sensed their reluctance to engage, and he knew he needed to address it head-on. Hey, I see some friends over there who might have something to say, he called out, gesturing toward the group. We'd love to hear your thoughts. The young men exchanged glances but remained silent. Michael decided to take a more personal approach. Listen, I know it can be tough to talk about these issues, but we're all here to support one another. What are your thoughts about the challenges you face in our community? He asked, his voice sincere. One of the young men finally spoke up. Why should we trust you guys? Cops never listen to us. Michael felt the weight of those words. He understood the skepticism that often surrounded police interactions, especially among young people. You're right, he replied. It's earned, not given. But I want to earn your trust. How can we do that? The young men looked at one another, surprised by Michael's openness. We just want to feel safe without being judged all the time, another young man said. Absolutely, Michael affirmed. We're committed to building trust and ensuring that everyone feels safe in our community. You deserve to be heard, and I'm here to listen. As the conversation unfolded, the young men began to share their experiences. They spoke about feeling targeted by police, their frustrations with systemic issues, and their desire for better communication. I just want to be treated like a person, not a suspect, one of the young men said, his voice filled with emotion. Michael listened intently, acknowledging their pain. I understand. It's crucial for us to recognize that everyone deserves respect and understanding. We're here to create a positive relationship, and it starts with conversations like this. As the discussions continued, Michael encouraged the young men to share their ideas for improving community police relations. They discussed potential initiatives, such as mentorship programs and youth outreach efforts, that would help bridge the gap between officers and residents. This could work, one of the young men said, his skepticism beginning to fade. But you have to be serious about it. I promise you we are, Michael replied, feeling a sense of hope. Together we can create positive change. By the end of the event, Michael felt a renewed sense of purpose. The discussions had been productive, and he could see the potential for collaboration between the police and the youth. He understood that rebuilding trust was a long-term commitment, but moments like these reaffirmed his dedication to the process. As the young people began to leave, several approached Michael and Jake, expressing their appreciation for the event. Thanks for listening. It means a lot, one young man said, a smile breaking across his face. Michael smiled back, feeling a sense of fulfillment. We're here for you. Let's keep the conversation going. However, just as things seemed to be progressing, Michael faced challenges from within the precinct. Some officers remained skeptical of the community engagement initiatives, believing that it undermined their authority. During a team meeting, Officer Greg voiced his concerns. "We're here to enforce the law, not be friends with the community. This approach isn't going to work." Michael felt frustration rising within him. It's not about being friends, it's about building trust. If we want to serve effectively, we need to understand the community we're policing. Greg crossed his arms, unconvinced. "You can't just ignore the fact that some people don't want to cooperate. You'll see, it'll just end up being a waste of time." Michael knew that change wouldn't happen overnight. He was determined to keep pushing forward, advocating for community engagement, and challenging his colleagues to see the value in building relationships. As the weeks went by, just when Michael felt they were making strides, a crisis hit the precinct. A high-profile incident involving police misconduct in a neighboring city ignited outrage in the community, leading to protests and demands for accountability. The news spread quickly and tensions in the community escalated. Michael felt the weight of responsibility as he prepared for the inevitable backlash. He understood that rebuilding trust would take time, but this incident threatened to undermine their progress. During a community meeting, residents expressed their anger and frustration. "How can we trust you when things like this keep happening?" one resident shouted. Michael nodded, acknowledging the pain in the room. "I understand your frustration, and I want to assure you that we're committed to accountability. We're here to listen and to work together." The atmosphere was tense, but Michael felt a sense of urgency to advocate for transparency. "We need to take this seriously and work together to address the concerns of the community." In the weeks that followed, Michael and his fellow officers worked to address the concerns raised by the community. They participated in community forums, engaging in open dialogue and encouraging residents to voice their thoughts. As he patrolled the neighborhood, Michael felt a growing sense of connection with the residents. He understood that rebuilding trust required consistent effort and commitment, and he was determined to be a part of that process. One day, as he walked through the park, he encountered a group of children playing basketball. He felt a sense of joy as he approached them, eager to engage. "Hey, everyone! How's it going?" he called out, a smile on his face. The children looked up, their faces lighting up with excitement. "Officer Carter, can we play basketball?" "Absolutely," Michael replied, feeling a sense of camaraderie. As they played, Michael felt a sense of connection with the children. He knew that these interactions were vital for rebuilding trust in the community. After the game, Michael took a moment to talk with the children. "You guys did great out there. Are you planning to join a league?" One boy nodded enthusiastically. "Yeah, we're practicing every week." Inspired by his interactions with the community, Michael proposed a new initiative, a series of community engagement events designed to foster positive relationships between residents and officers. He wanted to create opportunities for dialogue, collaboration, and understanding. During a precinct meeting, he presented his idea to his fellow officers. "We need to show the community that we care about their concerns," he explained. "By organizing events, we can build trust and engage with residents in a positive way." Some officers expressed skepticism, questioning the effectiveness of such initiatives. However, Michael remained committed to his vision. "If we want to change perceptions, we need to be proactive. It's not just about enforcing the law, it's about serving the community." The first community event took place at a local park, and Michael felt a sense of excitement as he prepared to address the crowd. He had organized activities for families, games for children, and opportunities for residents to engage with officers in a positive setting. "Thank you all for being here today," Michael called out, his voice filled with enthusiasm. "This event is about building relationships and fostering trust within our community." As the event unfolded, residents began to engage with officers, sharing their concerns and ideas for improvement. Michael felt a sense of fulfillment as he witnessed the positive interactions taking place. One resident approached him, expressing appreciation for the event. "It's nice to see you all here, engaging with us. It makes a difference." Michael smiled, feeling a surge of hope. "We're committed to listening and working together. Your voices matter." As the day continued, Michael participated in games with the children, shared stories with residents, and encouraged open dialogue. He could see the community starting to open up, and it filled him with pride. However, just as things seemed to be improving, Michael faced a significant setback. A viral video surfaced showing an officer using excessive force during an arrest in a neighboring precinct, reigniting tensions in the community. The news hit the precinct hard, and Michael felt the weight of frustration and anger among the community. He understood that the incident had the potential to undermine their efforts to rebuild trust. During a community meeting, residents voiced their concerns once again. "How can we trust you when things like this keep happening?" one resident demanded. Michael nodded, acknowledging the pain in the room. "I understand your frustration, and I want to assure you that we're committed to accountability. We're here to listen and to work together." As the meeting continued, tensions remained high, but Michael refused to back down. He was determined to advocate for transparency and accountability, knowing that the community deserved nothing less. In the weeks that followed, the precinct worked to address the concerns raised by the community. Michael and his fellow officers participated in community forums, engaging in open dialogue and encouraging residents to voice their thoughts. As he patrolled the neighborhood, Michael felt a growing sense of connection with the residents. He understood that rebuilding trust required consistent effort and commitment, and he was determined to be a part of that process. One day, as he walked through the park, he encountered a group of children playing basketball. He felt a sense of joy as he approached them, eager to engage. "Hey, everyone. How's it going?" he called out, a smile on his face. The children looked up, their faces lighting up with excitement. "Officer Carter, can we play basketball?" "Absolutely," Michael replied, feeling a sense of camaraderie. As they played, Michael felt a sense of connection with the children. He knew that these interactions were vital for rebuilding trust in the community. After the game, Michael took a moment to talk with the children. "You guys did great out there. Are you planning to join a league?" One boy nodded enthusiastically. "Yeah, we're practicing every week." "That's awesome. Keep working hard, and I'll come watch your games," Michael promised. Reflecting on his journey, Michael recognized that the path to change was not easy. He had faced challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt, but he had also found allies and forged connections that made the journey worthwhile. Through his determination to engage with the community and address their concerns, he had begun to change the narrative surrounding policing. He understood that it was not enough to wear the badge. It was essential to earn the trust that came with it. As he continued to serve the community, Michael felt a deep sense of responsibility. He was committed to ensuring that the police force represented not just authority, but also compassion, understanding, and a willingness to learn. With each interaction, each conversation, he was reminded of the power of connection and the importance of working together to create a brighter future for all. Michael Carter stood in front of the precinct, staring at the bustling street before him. It had been several months since he began his career as a police officer, and he felt a mix of pride and pressure. He had worked hard to build relationships within the community, but recent events threatened to unravel the progress he had made. The atmosphere in the precinct was tense. In the wake of a high-profile case involving police misconduct, protests erupted across the city. The community was angry and demanded accountability. Michael understood the significance of the situation and the importance of addressing the concerns of the residents head-on. During a briefing, Captain Reynolds gathered the officers to discuss the ongoing protests. "We need to be prepared for anything," she said, her voice steady. "The community is hurting, and it's our job to ensure their safety while listening to their concerns." Michael felt the weight of responsibility as he listened to the captain. He had seen the anger and frustration in the eyes of the residents, and he was determined to be a part of the solution. "Captain, I think we should hold a community meeting to address the concerns directly," Michael suggested, hoping to advocate for open dialogue. "That's a good idea, Carter," Reynolds replied, nodding thoughtfully. "We need to show the community that we're here to listen and support them." With the captain's approval, Michael began organizing the meeting, reaching out to community leaders and residents to encourage participation. He wanted to create an environment where everyone felt safe, expressing their thoughts and emotions. As the date of the community meeting approached, Michael worked tirelessly to ensure that everything was in place. He coordinated with local organizations and community leaders, hoping to attract a diverse group of participants. He wanted to create a space for honest dialogue and collaboration. "Are you nervous about the meeting?" Jake asked one afternoon as they prepared to head out for their patrol. "A little," Michael admitted. "I just want it to go well. This is an opportunity for us to show the community that we're committed to change." "I have faith in you, man. You've been doing great work," Jake said, offering his support. The day of the meeting arrived, and Michael felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. As he entered the community center, he was struck by the diverse crowd gathered inside. Residents of all ages filled the room, and Michael felt a surge of hope as he prepared to address them. "Thank you all for coming today," Michael began, standing at the front of the room. "We're here to listen to your concerns and work together to create a safer community." The atmosphere was charged with energy as residents began to share their thoughts. Some expressed anger, while others voiced their frustrations about recent events. Michael listened intently, taking notes and engaging in the conversation. "I just want to feel safe in my own neighborhood," one resident said, her voice trembling. "How can we trust you when things like this keep happening?" Michael nodded, acknowledging the pain in the room. "I understand your frustration, and I want to assure you that we're committed to accountability. We're here to listen and to work together." As the meeting continued, the tension in the room began to rise. A group of residents expressed their anger at the police department, demanding answers and accountability for the recent incidents. "What are you going to do about it?" one resident shouted, frustration evident in his voice. "We want real change, not just empty promises." Michael felt the weight of their words. He understood the urgency of the situation and the need for transparency. "I can't change the past, but I can promise to work towards a better future. We need to continue these conversations and hold ourselves accountable." The atmosphere remained tense, but Michael refused to back down. He was determined to advocate for transparency and accountability, knowing that the community deserved nothing less. In the weeks that followed the community meeting, Michael and his fellow officers worked diligently to engage with the residents. They attended neighborhood events, participated in local initiatives, and encouraged open dialogue. As Michael patrolled the streets, he continued to connect with residents, striving to rebuild trust. One day, he encountered a group of young people hanging out at a park. He felt a sense of familiarity as he approached. "Hey everyone, how's it going?" he called out, a smile on his face. The young people looked up, their expressions a mix of curiosity and skepticism. "What do you want?" one young man asked, crossing his arms defensively. Michael sensed their hesitation and decided to take a different approach. "I'm just here to hang out and see how you're doing. What's going on?" As they began to chat, Michael listened to their stories and concerns. They talked about their experiences with police, their fears, and their hopes for the future. "I just want to feel like we can talk to you guys without being judged," one young woman said, her voice filled with vulnerability. Michael nodded, understanding the importance of connection. "I get that. It's essential for us to create an environment where you feel safe expressing yourselves. We're here to listen." Encouraged by his conversations with the youth, Michael proposed a community initiative, a series of workshops aimed at empowering young people and fostering positive relationships between officers and residents. He envisioned a program where youth could engage with officers in a safe and supportive environment, allowing them to voice their concerns and contribute to decision-making. During a precinct meeting, he presented his idea to his colleagues. "We need to show the community that we care about their concerns. By organizing workshops, we can build trust and engage with young people in a positive way." Some officers expressed skepticism, questioning the effectiveness of such initiatives. However, Michael remained committed to his vision. "If we want to change perceptions, we need to be proactive. It's not just about enforcing the law, it's about serving the community." With the support of his colleagues, Michael began planning the first workshop. He reached out to local schools and youth organizations, inviting them to participate in the initiative. The day of the first workshop arrived, and Michael felt a mix of excitement and nerves. He had organized a variety of activities designed to encourage dialogue and collaboration. As the young people began to arrive, he welcomed them with a warm smile. "Thank you all for coming today," Michael called out, standing at the front of the room. "This workshop is an opportunity for us to connect, share our experiences, and work together to create positive change. As the workshop unfolded, Michael facilitated discussions on topics such as community safety, trust, and accountability. He encouraged the participants to share their thoughts and experiences, creating an atmosphere of openness. One young man raised his hand. "I just want to know why we can't trust the police. It feels like you're always watching us." Michael took a deep breath, recognizing the importance of addressing the concerns head-on. "I understand your frustration, and I want to assure you that we're here to listen. We know that trust is earned, and we're committed to doing better." As the discussions continued, the young people began to open up, sharing their experiences and expressing their hopes for the future. Michael felt a sense of fulfillment as he witnessed the positive interactions taking place. During one of the breakout sessions, Michael engaged with a small group of participants. They discussed the importance of community engagement and the role of the police in fostering positive relationships. "I think it would be great if we could have more events like this," one young woman suggested. "It helps us understand each other better." "I agree," Michael replied. "We need to create more opportunities for dialogue and collaboration. Your voices matter, and we want to make sure we're meeting your needs." As the workshop came to a close, Michael felt a renewed sense of hope. He had witnessed the power of connection and the importance of building relationships within the community. However, just when things seemed to be progressing, Michael faced another challenge. A call came in reporting a robbery at a local convenience store, and as they arrived on the scene, he could feel the tension in the air. The store clerk, visibly shaken, recounted the events. "Two guys came in with masks and demanded money. They were aggressive." Michael and Jake quickly assessed the situation, gathering information from witnesses. The community was on edge, and he understood the importance of responding effectively to restore a sense of safety. As they worked to gather details, Michael noticed a group of young people standing across the street, watching the commotion with concern. He approached them, wanting to engage with the community. "Hey, are you guys okay?" Michael asked, trying to create a connection. One young man stepped forward. "We saw what happened. We're worried about the neighborhood. This kind of stuff keeps happening." Michael nodded, understanding their concerns. "I get it. It's important for us to work together to create a safer community. If you have any information, please let us know." In the days that followed, the precinct worked to address the concerns raised by the community. They organized a community meeting to discuss the robbery and its impact on residents. Michael felt a sense of urgency to ensure that the community felt heard and supported. As the meeting began, residents expressed their frustrations about the rising crime rates. "We want to feel safe in our own neighborhood," one resident shouted. Michael nodded, acknowledging their pain. "I understand your concerns, and I want to assure you that we're committed to working with you. We're here to listen and address your needs." As the discussion continued, residents shared their ideas for improving safety and fostering positive relationships with the police. Michael encouraged them to engage in open dialogue, recognizing the importance of collaboration. Inspired by the discussions, Michael proposed a collaborative approach to addressing crime in the neighborhood. "Let's work together to create a neighborhood watch program," he suggested. "We can empower residents to look out for one another and build a stronger sense of community." Residents began to express enthusiasm for the idea, sharing their thoughts on how the program could work. "We need to feel like we have a say in what happens in our neighborhood," one resident said. "I agree," Michael replied, feeling a sense of excitement. "By working together, we can create a safer environment for everyone." As the meeting concluded, Michael felt a renewed sense of hope. He understood that rebuilding trust would take time, but moments like these reaffirmed his commitment to the process. In the weeks that followed, Michael worked diligently to establish the Neighborhood Watch program. He collaborated with residents to develop a plan that included regular meetings, training sessions, and community events. The first Neighborhood Watch meeting took place in the community center, and Michael felt a mix of excitement and nerves. As residents gathered, he welcomed them with a warm smile. "Thank you all for being here today," Michael called out, standing at the front of the room. "This program is an opportunity for us to work together to create a safer community. Your involvement is crucial." As the meeting unfolded, residents began to discuss their concerns and ideas for the program. Michael encouraged them to share their thoughts, fostering an atmosphere of collaboration. "I think we should have regular patrols to keep an eye on things," one resident suggested. "That's a great idea," Michael replied, taking notes. "We can organize volunteers to help with the patrols, and I'll be here to support you every step of the way." As the Neighborhood Watch program gained momentum, Michael felt a sense of pride in the community's engagement. Residents were eager to take an active role in improving safety, and he knew that their involvement was key to rebuilding trust. During one of the Neighborhood Watch meetings, Michael emphasized the importance of communication. "If you see anything suspicious or have concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're here to listen and support you." Residents expressed their appreciation for the police's willingness to engage with them. "It feels good to know that you care about our concerns," one resident said, her voice filled with gratitude. Michael smiled, feeling a sense of fulfillment. He understood that moments like these were essential for building relationships within the community. However, just as things seemed to be improving, Michael faced another setback. A call came in reporting a shooting in the neighborhood, and he felt his heart race as they sped toward the scene. As they arrived, chaos unfolded before them. A crowd had gathered, and tensions were high. Michael could see the flashing lights of other patrol cars, and he felt a rush of adrenaline as he stepped out of the cruiser. "Stay alert," Jake reminded him, scanning the crowd for any signs of trouble. Michael took a deep breath, reminding himself of the importance of remaining calm in the face of chaos. As they moved toward the commotion, he felt a sense of urgency. "Let's gather information from witnesses," Jake suggested, and Michael nodded in agreement. As they approached a group of bystanders, Michael felt the weight of responsibility. He needed to ensure that they felt safe and secure, even in the midst of chaos. "Can we talk to you for a moment?" Michael asked, trying to project calmness amid the turmoil. One man stepped forward, visibly shaken. "I saw everything. There was an argument, and then shots were fired." Michael listened intently, taking notes as the man described the events leading up to the shooting. "Did you see who was involved?" he asked, hoping to gather crucial information. "It was a group of guys. They were arguing about something, and then it escalated," the man explained, his voice trembling. As Michael engaged with witnesses, he felt the tension in the air. He understood that rebuilding trust in the community would be a long and difficult process, especially after such a traumatic event. In the days that followed, the precinct faced the aftermath of the shooting. The community was on edge and tensions ran high. Michael felt the weight of responsibility as he continued to patrol the neighborhood, aware of the impact of recent events. During a community meeting, residents voiced their concerns about safety and police presence. "How can we trust you when things keep happening?" one resident demanded. Michael nodded, acknowledging the pain in the room. "I understand your frustration, and I want to assure you that we're committed to accountability. We're here to listen and work together." As the meeting continued, residents expressed their desire for better communication with the police. They wanted to feel safe and secure in their neighborhood, and Michael knew that he had to do everything he could to address their concerns. In the weeks that followed, Michael continued to focus on community engagement. He participated in local events, attended neighborhood meetings, and worked to foster positive relationships between residents and officers. During one event, Michael encountered a group of children playing in the park. He felt a surge of joy as he approached them, eager to engage. "Hey, everyone! How's it going?" he called out, a smile on his face. The children looked up, their faces lighting up with excitement. "Officer Carter, can we play basketball?" "Absolutely," Michael replied, feeling a sense of camaraderie. As they played, Michael felt a sense of connection with the children. He knew that these interactions were vital for rebuilding trust in the community. After the game, Michael took a moment to talk with the children. "You guys did great out there. Are you planning to join a league?" One boy nodded enthusiastically. "Yeah, we're practicing every week." "That's awesome. Keep working hard, and I'll come watch your games," Michael promised. However, the ongoing challenges of policing remained ever present. One afternoon, while on patrol, Michael and Jake received a call about a fight breaking out at a local high school. As they arrived, Michael could see a group of students gathered outside, their voices raised in anger. He felt a sense of urgency as he approached the scene, aware that tensions could escalate quickly. "Stay close," Jake said, scanning the crowd for any signs of trouble. Michael took a deep breath, reminding himself of the importance of remaining calm in the face of chaos. As they moved toward the group, he felt a sense of responsibility to ensure everyone's safety. "Hey everyone! What's going on here?" Michael called out, trying to project calmness amid the turmoil. One student stepped forward, frustration evident in his voice. "They started throwing punches. It's not fair." Michael listened intently, trying to gather information. "We need to get this under control. Can you tell me who was involved?" As the crowd began to disperse, Michael felt a sense of relief. He knew that moments like these were crucial for maintaining order and ensuring the safety of everyone involved. In the days that followed, Michael continued to engage with the community, participating in events and encouraging open dialogue. He understood that rebuilding trust required consistent effort and commitment. One day, as he walked through the park, he encountered a group of children playing basketball. He felt a sense of joy as he approached them, eager to engage. "Hey, everyone! How's it going?" he called out, a smile on his face. The children looked up, their faces lighting up with excitement. "Officer Carter, can we play basketball?" "Absolutely," Michael replied, feeling a sense of camaraderie. As they played, Michael felt a sense of connection with the children. He knew that these interactions were vital for rebuilding trust in the community. After the game, Michael took a moment to talk with the children. "You guys did great out there. Are you planning to join a league?" One boy nodded enthusiastically. "Yeah, we're practicing every week." "That's awesome. Keep working hard, and I'll come watch your games," Michael promised. Reflecting on his journey, Michael recognized that the path to change was not easy. He had faced challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt, but he had also found allies and forged connections that made the journey worthwhile. Through his determination to engage with the community and address their concerns, he had begun to change the narrative surrounding policing. He understood that it was not enough to wear the badge. It was essential to earn the trust that came with it. As he continued to serve the community, Michael felt a deep sense of responsibility. He was committed to ensuring that the police force represented not just authority, but also compassion, understanding, and a willingness to learn. With each interaction, each conversation, he was reminded of the power of connection and the importance of working together to create a brighter future for all. Michael Carter stood at the edge of the community park, looking out at the vibrant scene unfolding before him. Children were playing, families were enjoying picnics, and laughter filled the air. This was the community he had worked so hard to connect with, and in many ways, it felt like a dream come true. But beneath this serene surface, the shadows of recent events lingered, a reminder that the path to rebuilding trust was not yet complete. As he watched the interactions between families and officers, Michael felt a swell of pride. They had made significant strides in building relationships, but there was still work to be done. The recent protests had highlighted the community's pain, and he was determined to honor their voices. "Hey, Officer Carter," called out a familiar voice. It was Maya, one of the community leaders he had worked closely with during the Neighborhood Watch initiative. "Maya!" "Good to see you," Michael replied, walking over to greet her. "How's everything going?" "It's going well. The Neighborhood Watch program is starting to gain traction, and residents are feeling more empowered to take action," she said, her enthusiasm infectious. "That's fantastic. It's exactly what we need," Michael said, feeling hopeful. "We can't solve these issues alone. It's about working together." As they chatted, Michael reflected on how far they had come. From the initial community meetings filled with skepticism to the collaborative initiatives that were beginning to take shape, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. Yet he knew that the work ahead would require commitment from both officers and residents. With the success of the Neighborhood Watch program, Michael and Maya began discussing plans for further community engagement. "I think we should organize a community safety fair," Maya suggested. "It would be a great opportunity to bring everyone together and provide resources for families." "I love that idea. We can have workshops on safety, self-defense classes, and even invite local organizations to set up booths," Michael replied, feeling inspired. As they brainstormed ideas, Michael felt the weight of responsibility lifting slightly. This fair could serve as a turning point, reinforcing the message that the police and the community were partners in creating a safer environment. In the weeks leading up to the Community Safety Fair, Michael worked tirelessly to coordinate logistics. He reached out to local businesses, organizations, and residents to encourage participation. He wanted this event to be a celebration of community, showcasing the strength and resilience of the neighborhood. On the day of the fair, Michael arrived early to help set up. The park was filled with colorful banners, booths, and families eager to participate. He felt a surge of excitement as he looked around, knowing that they were fostering a sense of unity. As the event began, Michael welcomed the attendees. "Thank you all for being here today. This fair is a celebration of our community and an opportunity to learn from one another. Together we can make our neighborhood safer and stronger." The atmosphere was electric, with laughter and conversation filling the air. Michael moved from booth to booth, engaging with residents, answering questions, and sharing information about the police department's initiatives. However, just as things were going smoothly, a familiar face appeared in the crowd. It was Greg, one of the more skeptical officers from the precinct. Michael felt a knot form in his stomach as Greg approached, his expression serious. "Carter, what's all this?" Greg said, gesturing to the fair. "You really think this will change anything?" Michael took a deep breath, determined to remain calm. "This is about building relationships and fostering trust, Greggy. The community needs to see that we care about their concerns." "Right. But what if they don't want to work with us? What if this is all just a show?" Greg challenged, crossing his arms. "Then it's our job to prove them wrong," Michael replied, meeting Greg's gaze. "We can't change perceptions if we don't show up and engage." Greg sighed, seemingly unconvinced. "I still think it's a waste of time, but good luck." As Greg walked away, Michael felt a mix of frustration and determination. He understood that not everyone would be on board with his vision, but he was committed to making a difference, no matter the obstacles. The fair continued, and Michael found himself deeply engaged with the residents. He facilitated workshops on safety, shared resources, and listened to their concerns. The atmosphere was filled with energy, and he could sense the community's eagerness to connect. During one workshop, a young woman shared her experiences. "I want to know how we can help our community feel safer," she said, her voice strong. "We need to work together to address the issues we face." Michael felt a surge of pride. "Absolutely. It starts with conversations like these. Your voices are crucial in shaping the future of our neighborhood." As the day went on, Michael witnessed the community coming together, sharing ideas, and fostering connections. It was a reminder of the power of collaboration and the importance of unity in the face of adversity. As the fair drew to a close, Michael felt a sense of fulfillment. They had successfully brought the community together, and the connections forged that day would serve as the foundation for future initiatives. "Maya, thank you for your support in making this happen," Michael said, feeling grateful for her partnership. "It was a team effort," Maya replied, beaming with pride. "We've made great strides, but we still have a long way to go." "I agree. This is just the beginning," Michael replied, determined to continue advocating for positive change. As they wrapped up the event, Michael took a moment to reflect on the journey they had undertaken. He understood that the path to rebuilding trust would be filled with challenges, but he was committed to facing them head-on. However, just as they began to celebrate their successes, a new challenge emerged. A series of crimes had been reported in the neighborhood, and tensions began to rise once again. Michael felt a sense of urgency as he prepared to address the situation. During a precinct meeting, the captain addressed the officers. "We need to respond to the recent spike in crime. It's crucial that we work closely with the community to address these issues." Michael raised his hand, eager to share his thoughts. "I think we should hold another community meeting to discuss the recent incidents. We need to listen to residents and work together to find solutions." "That's a good idea, Carter," the captain replied, nodding. "Let's get something scheduled as soon as possible." With the captain's approval, Michael began organizing the meeting, reaching out to community leaders and residents to encourage participation. He wanted to create an environment where everyone felt safe, expressing their thoughts and emotions. As the day of the community meeting approached, Michael felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. He knew that the residents would have concerns to voice, and he was determined to create a space for open dialogue. On the night of the meeting, the community center was filled with residents eager to discuss the recent crimes. Michael stood at the front of the room, ready to welcome everyone. "Thank you all for being here tonight," Michael began, his voice steady. "We're here to listen to your concerns and work together to address the challenges we face." The atmosphere was charged with energy as residents began to share their thoughts. Some expressed anger about the recent crimes, while others voiced their frustrations about feeling unsafe in their own neighborhood. "I just want to feel secure when I walk home at night," one resident said, her voice trembling. "How can we trust the police when we see crime increasing?" Michael nodded, acknowledging the pain in the room. "I understand your frustration. We're committed to addressing these concerns, and we want to work with you to find solutions." As the meeting continued, tensions began to rise. A group of residents expressed their anger about the police response to recent incidents. "We need more officers patrolling the streets. You can't just sit in your cars and expect us to feel safe," one resident shouted. Michael felt the weight of their words. "I hear your concerns, and I want you to know that we're here to take action. We're committed to increasing our presence in the neighborhood and working collaboratively with you." The room was filled with skepticism, but Michael remained determined to advocate for transparency and accountability. He was committed to being a voice for the community, ensuring that their needs were addressed. In the weeks that followed the community meeting, Michael and his fellow officers worked diligently to address the concerns raised by the residents. They increased their visibility in the neighborhood, patrolling the streets more frequently and engaging with residents on a personal level. One day, while on patrol, Michael encountered a group of teenagers hanging out at a local park. He felt a sense of familiarity as he approached them. "Hey everyone, how's it going?" he called out, a smile on his face. The teenagers looked up, their expressions a mix of curiosity and skepticism. "What do you want?" one young man asked, crossing his arms defensively. Michael decided to take a different approach. "I'm just here to hang out and see how you're doing. What's going on?" As they began to chat, Michael listened to their stories and concerns. They talked about their experiences with police, their fears, and their hopes for the future. "I just want to feel like we can talk to you guys without being judged," one young woman said, her voice filled with vulnerability. Michael nodded, understanding the importance of connection. "I get that. It's essential for us to create an environment where you feel safe expressing yourselves. We're here to listen." However, the ongoing challenges of policing remained ever-present. One afternoon, while on patrol, Michael and Jake received a call about a fight breaking out at a local high school. As they arrived, Michael could see a group of students gathered outside, their voices raised in anger. He felt a sense of urgency as he approached the scene, aware that tensions could escalate quickly. "Stay close," Jake said, scanning the crowd for any signs of trouble. Michael took a deep breath, reminding himself of the importance of remaining calm in the face of chaos. As they moved toward the group, he felt a sense of responsibility to ensure everyone's safety. "Hey everyone! What's going on here?" Michael called out, trying to project calmness amid the turmoil. One student stepped forward, frustration evident in his voice. "They started throwing punches. It's not fair." Michael listened intently, trying to gather information. "We need to get this under control. Can you tell me who was involved?" As the crowd began to disperse, Michael felt a sense of relief. He knew that moments like these were crucial for maintaining order and ensuring the safety of everyone involved. In the days that followed, Michael continued to engage with the community, participating in events and encouraging open dialogue. He understood that rebuilding trust required consistent effort and commitment. One day, as he walked through the park, he encountered a group of children playing basketball. He felt a sense of joy as he approached them, eager to engage. "Hey everyone, how's it going?" he called out, a smile on his face. The children looked up, their faces lighting up with excitement. "Officer Carter, can we play basketball?" "Absolutely," Michael replied, feeling a sense of camaraderie. As they played, Michael felt a sense of connection with the children. He knew that these interactions were vital for rebuilding trust in the community. After the game, Michael took a moment to talk with the children. You guys did great out there. Are you planning to join a league? One boy nodded enthusiastically. Yeah, we're practicing every week. That's awesome. Keep working hard, and I'll come watch your games, Michael promised. Reflecting on his journey, Michael recognized that the path to change was not easy. He had faced challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt, but he had also found allies and forged connections that made the journey worthwhile. Through his determination to engage with the community and address their concerns, he had begun to change the narrative surrounding policing. He understood that it was not enough to wear the badge. It was essential to earn the trust that came with it. As he continued to serve the community, Michael felt a deep sense of responsibility. He was committed to ensuring that the police force represented not just authority, but also compassion, understanding, and a willingness to learn. With each interaction, each conversation, he was reminded of the power of connection and the importance of working together to create a brighter future for all.